Hey, it's Conrad, the mortgage guy, and you're listening to Something to Wrestle with John Layfield. John, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm outstanding, Conrad. I'm still on the road, as you can see. I've got all kinds of crap going on here, so hopefully the internet stays up. I think it will. But on the road up here in Idaho.
Wait. I just saw you on TV on Friday. Why are you in Idaho?
I came up for a signing, a Comic-Con type event, and I wanted to come up here for another reason, was because this is where Evel Knievel jumped Snake River. The canyon jump was right here. It's like within 2 miles of here. So I've always wanted to come here, and I've never gotten a chance to come. So they want me to come to a Comic-Con, really nice people. And so I came up for that and stayed an extra day to go to see the Snake River jump, which Vince McMahon promoted.
Okay, wait a minute. What year was that?
74.
Okay. So take us back to young John. Were you watching that as a kid on TV? Was that the coolest thing ever?
In the history of the world?
Yeah.
Yes. I was born in 66, so the moon landing happened, when I was a kid, but I'm not going to remember what, 3 years old and somebody's on the moon. Sure they are. Mr. Potato Head's in the kitchen too. And so, but I don't remember. I do remember very well. I was a massive Evel Knievel fan. And to this day, I'm a huge Evel Knievel fan.
So what was it about Evel Knievel that made you such a fan?
I tell you one story about him that encapsulates Evel, and I think it was Dick Ebersol. I'm not 100% sure, but when he did the jump in Wembley, they told the producer, he was sitting there looking at the ramp, and he goes, "No, I can't make it." And so the producer goes, "What are you going to do?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to jump, of course." And he goes, "Well, you just said you can't make it." And he goes, "Yeah, there's not enough ramp. I'm not going to make it." And he said, "Well, why aren't you going to make it?" He goes, "There's too many buses." And he goes, "Well, take a bus out." He goes, "I can, I promised." And so they goes back to the production meeting. He goes, "Well, Evel's going to wreck." And that was it. And he damn near killed himself. That's when he hit and almost broke his pelvis and damn near killed himself. He knew he was going to wreck. He did it himself. He did it anyway. Evel Knievel was batshit crazy, but a stand-up dude. And people that ever met him love that guy. I know so many people that knew him just love the guy.
I mean, that had to be one of the most watched things of 1974. I mean, anytime Evel did something, it was appointment television almost around the world, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And it just got better and better and better because there was never a safety net. Now you have all of this computer software that goes with these jumps, and not to take any away from these young guys, but it's not even the same sport. It's not that what Evel was doing was a sport. Those guys none of them, well, I say none of them. I would imagine very few of them would do what Knievel did. Just line up on a freaking Harley that's not built to jump and judge it by feel as to how fast you think you need to go by doing a couple run-bys on it. I mean, it's just nuts what he did. And all the extra stuff that he did. He was a real daredevil. And the stunt at Snake River, one of the greatest, he wanted to do it on a rocket motorcycle, but I was just there and I've got all the pictures and stuff, and you would not believe how far. There's the ramp right there. That's the original ramp. That concrete right there is where they put the rocket paraphernalia, where he put himself in the rocket to launch himself over. But look at that canyon. I don't know how far it is across. You would need to be going 1,000 miles an hour to go across that canyon. There's no way. He wanted to jump it with a motorcycle and a rocket. And then he realized he couldn't. So he built this rocket ship, and he didn't even have a plan. I mean, it's like Wile E. Coyote. I'm just going to shoot myself over a canyon and land somewhere. I mean, there was the cone was built with some type of shock absorber, and you're going 500 miles an hour, and you had some type of parachute that was going to deploy. So it really was not going to be that great if it worked. People would look at it and go, okay, he lived. It was incredibly dangerous. The fact that he lived is amazing. What happened was when he shot off the rocket, the G-forces kicked the parachute out. People always say it was a scam. It was also, it wasn't 100% not. He was furious about it, that the parachute deployed. But Vince was the one that promoted it. And I've talked to Vince about it many times. He loved Knievel. But Vince lost his ass on it. As Vince would say, it was an artistic success. So whenever I have a match that was really bad, I'd say that was an artistic success. And Vince would, "You're fired," and then laugh about it. But he lost his ass on it, just like he lost on the Inoki Ali fight. Vince, the 70s were not kind to Vince.
I don't think a lot of people even think about the stuff that Vince did pre-wrestling. How much time, I mean, knowing you're a big Evel fan, I'm sure you picked Vince's brain about that all the time, didn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Vince was a huge. Everybody loved Knievel. I mean, Knievel had the hottest selling item in the world. The little motorcycle. You wound up, and for those of us old enough to do it, I mean, everybody had one of these things. He was the first big merch seller. He was selling tens of millions, if not $100 million worth of that stuff back in the early '70s. And what killed him was in '77 when he went and broke that reporter's arms and got thrown in jail and told the judge, "Throw the book at me. I did it. I deserve it." I mean, the guy was nuts. That's what killed all of his merch sales. Before that, he was an incredibly wealthy man, but he was like a lot of guys. If he made $100 million, he spent $105 million. He was truly a legendary guy.
I think it's interesting that Vince promoted these other things before wrestling. I mean, from what you remember, was Vince involved in his dad's business, the wrestling business, at all by '74, or was he trying to cut his promotional teeth outside of wrestling?
Both. From my understanding. I've talked to Vince a little bit about it, but I've done a lot more research than I've talked to him about. I have asked him about this. He did commentary for his dad. So a lot of times in the mid '70s, and I don't know when he started. I know he did the commentary, I believe, for the Hansen match with Bruno in '75 or '76. That was such a good cage match. But Vince was a commentary guy by himself for his father during that time. But he was trying to make it on his own. He had a couple businesses. He had one a livestock type business. He had some type of natural gas or something business, a fossil fuel type business. They both went bankrupt. He promoted the Inoki Ali fight, went bust on that. Promoted the Knievel fight, went bust on that. If those would have been successful, the world probably changed. You always want to talk about what if. If he had been successful, the world changes because now Vince steps into the spotlight. He's the wunderkind. Instead, he was the failure. That's one of the reasons he went to Cape Cod. And he went to Cape Cod and took over that arena. That's where he learned how to promote, in my opinion. And if I'm looking back at his life, that's where he had the Harlem Globetrotters. He had the hockey team. That's where he brought in Tim White. That's when he brought in the big hockey bruiser that ended up being his enforcer for arenas all over the country. And then in '81 is when he hatched the plan to come back out of the abyss, which was Cape Cod, and buy the company for $1 million. And that's what he did. But if he hadn't had these failures first, I don't think he would have ever gone to Cape Cod, because that was kind of, I just got to figure out something to do in life. He was not being very successful. Then he hatched the plan to buy his dad's company, came back, and that's when things took off.
Well, listen, you know the story. I don't. I just know what I've read. But I thought the first town he promoted for his dad was Bangor, Maine.
It was.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a promoter. Yeah, but he was also running the Cape Cod arena. Yeah, he was. He was running both. He hit Cape Cod, and maybe his dad hooked him up with that. But he was promoting the Cape Cod arena. But he's already out there in the Boston area, so he was promoted for his dad also. A lot of promoters also had other jobs. Back in the day, they'd promote certain towns, but they did other things as well. That was what Vince did. So yes, that's 100% correct.
So I guess I didn't know that story. He ran a building in Cape Cod, but promoted wrestling in Bangor, Maine for his dad.
Yeah, he had the Harlem Globetrotters there. That's when he got the hockey team that he brought in. He didn't own it, but I don't think he owned it. He found a way to get them to be in his building, to have people there, tenants there all the time. And so he had promotions there. So he ran his own building there in Cape Cod for a couple of years, I guess. I'm not sure, 2 or 3 years. And I always thought that's where he really learned the business. He had this great foundation from his father, but he didn't grow up in the business. I always thought that's where he learned the business, was at Cape Cod. Because when he came out of that, that's when he had the idea for the whole infrastructure to put together. He brought Tim White from the hockey team. He brought the enforcer. I can't think of the guy's name. I think you'd know him if I could remember him. He was the guy who made sure the money was right in all the arenas, which back in the days of cash, that was as important as being able to draw money. You can draw all the money you want. If you don't get paid, it's an issue. And Tim White and that guy made sure they got paid. That was those two guys were very important employees. But Vince learned all that at his own arena.
I could be making this up. It's not Dave the Hammer Schultz, is it?
No. Okay. No, I don't. That name doesn't sound familiar. I always forget the guy's name. I never met him. He was I think $100,000 to start the Friendly Tap. They were going to start the Friendly Tap together, and they said, "Oh, Vince, we're tired of being on the road. It's big money." And Vince said, "Big money's relative. What is it?" It was like, I think it was $100,000. Vince gave him a check for $100,000 to start the Friendly Tap, and that way he was able to keep Tim and the hockey goon. I can't think of his name.
I'm fascinated to learn more about Vince. One of the things I learned from hanging out with David Crockett is that the Crockett's, they promoted a lot of stuff too. I mean, they promoted the Harlem Globetrotters in that area, but also not just Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, but tons of musical acts, like really famous musical acts. And I thought that was really fascinating that these famous wrestling promoters, man, they started out promoting a whole lot of other things as well. And we know that Vince even dabbled in boxing a little bit. Did he ever tell you about his foray into boxing?
No, tell me about the Inoki fight, but not much more. I mean, no, nothing much about. In fact, I know him and Aram are pretty good friends. Him and Don King were certainly, I don't know about friends, but they were they're kind of like a cat and a dog, I think, at times. But him and Aram were pretty good friends. They are pretty good friends.
I think 1988, and then again in '97. Vince tried his hand at boxing. Sugar Ray Leonard both times, as best I can recall, but neither one of those hit. We know he tried the WBF, he tried the XFL. He's clearly like an old school promoter at heart, but I guess I didn't really ever think about the fact that him promoting Evel Knievel, and that was 74. And I actually just looked this up. It was 51 years and 1 week ago, because it was September 8th. So it was 51 years and 1 week ago today that
tremendous.
But then 2 years later, June 26, 76, that's when the Ali Inoki thing happened. And that's sort of pro wrestling adjacent. Listen, a lot of times, a lot of young men, they want to get the attention of their dad, and there's nothing that can make you as a young man feel prouder than hoping you make your dad proud. Do you think that that's what he was trying to do, is to prove to his dad that he could do it and make his dad proud? Was that a big part of, you think, Vince trying this?
Yes, 100%. And I get this this is just my opinion. Okay. This does not come from Vince. This is my opinion about what it was by looking from the outside in and either reading about his life and talking to him also about the instances that happened in person as well. I've always thought that, his dad told him later in life he was proud of him. He repeated that, later in life before his dad passed away, he told him how proud he was of him. And he repeated that. That was a big deal to him. And I always thought that these first two events, a lot of it was to impress his father. I always thought was a big deal to him. He didn't grow up with his father, but he loved his father. When he first met him, they just fell in love. It was a great father-son relationship. Vince thought the world of his dad. And, his dad was a stand-up guy. He's a very impressive guy. He was always in a suit, always had his, quarters that he shook in his hand. There was just this old school vibe about his dad. And I think Vince really wanted to impress him. And I think that had a huge thing to do with the Inoki fight and the Knievel fight, which you can imagine. Here's a kid trying to impress his dad. And not only does it work, but it's a big failure. It was probably pretty devastating to Vince. And, he's thinking he's the heir apparent. And all of a sudden now it looks like he's not. And I think that's why he accepted not banishment, but it was that's what it was. In Siberia of Cape Cod.
Siberia. That's fine. It is interesting to think, what if those other things had hit, if any of those
would have come in right away. And I just, the way I read this, and I have not got this from Vince. This is 100% my opinion. The way I read this was he didn't have the knowledge then. He had the brain power, obviously, same smart guy that was there 30 years later. He didn't have the knowledge then to step in. But if those would have been successful and he'd have hit those, he probably would have stepped in early. And I think things would have been different because he wouldn't have been ready. I think when he came back from Cape Cod, he was ready.
It's interesting because in talking to Bruce, I mean, he's told the story on this podcast before that, Vince filed bankruptcy from some of these early events. Like, he put it all on the line and he risked it and he lost it all. And those balls of steel and that perseverance is what made him stand the test of time, probably more than anything else. And it's just fascinating to think that if the Evel thing hit or the Ali thing hit, he could have done a variety of different things, and maybe wrestling would be totally different. What would wrestling even look like now if Vince McMahon never got into it, John? Do you think
that's exactly what I thought, because he had two businesses, and I can't think of the businesses, you can look on the internet, that both went bankrupt in the early 70s before these promotions. I mean, he was trying to make it on his own. And he had some connections with his dad. He obviously had some connections with money because of that. I don't think he had, he obviously didn't have any money on his own at that point. But if those businesses had been successful and all of a sudden he hits a home run with this Knievel jump, he may never get into wrestling. You're right. I've always thought that. And if he does, he gets into it in a different way. He hasn't learned it from the ground up at that point. He comes in as a commentator. He comes in as the promoter's kid. And then, which by the way, he hates the term wrestling promoter. Somebody I thought had mistreated me one time, and I was pissed off about it. I didn't say much about it. And Vince pulled me aside to talk to me, and he said, listen, John, when you're in their world, it doesn't matter what you've done elsewhere. You stand on your own feet because of the merit from there. And he goes, you got to understand the guy doesn't owe you anything. And I said, well, Vince, it's like somebody treats you like an old wrestling promoter. And he looked at me with fire in his eyes, just saying it out loud made him mad. And I told him, I said, see, me just saying it makes you mad. I said, that's how strong it is. And he hated that term. But if he would have made it with the jump, I think wrestling business looks completely different. I don't know if he takes over or not, but he doesn't have the knowledge that he learned from Cape Cod.
In 2001, Vince did an interview with Playboy magazine that's now become a pretty legendary interview. And he said, quote, I got involved with people who weren't that bright and let them tell me I needed tax shelters. There was a construction company, a horse farm, a cement plant, and it all went belly up. And of course, what's really fascinating to me is I think he filed bankruptcy in April of 76. Now, the reason that's fascinating to me is the Ali and Inoki fight is June of 76. So I'm going to file bankruptcy in April, and 2 months later, I'm going to promote this huge international event with two of the biggest stars in the world. 2 months later, John.
How Vince is that? It was the concrete company and the horse farm. That's what it was that went bankrupt. Those are the two businesses he had. Yeah, how Vince is that? He's there's nothing like Vince, man. He's like the Blacklist character of James Spader plays. He always has a plan. He's always a step ahead. And right when you get done, you realize, oh man, he was the one pulling the strings the whole time.
By the way, if you're curious, it was nearly $1 million that Vince filed bankruptcy on in 1976. And well, it worked out. He's a billionaire. The rumor and innuendo is he probably spent a multiple of that on his doggone birthday party. So let that be a lesson to you boys and girls. Just hang around. Something that won't be hanging around though is the stink. Thanks to our friends from Mando. Here's the deal. Fall is here. That means football season, some yard work, those damn leaves, maybe some hunting trips, but let's be honest, staying fresh can be a challenge. And that's why you need to hear about Mando deodorant. From your pits to, well, everywhere else, Mando high performance odor control and sweat control actually lasts all day. Forget those colognes that just mask the stink. Mando blocks odor before it starts. One stick that does two jobs. That's coverage through double overtime games, that weekend project, even those extra long pre-holiday shifts. You're good. It's not magic. It's science. And what I love about this product is one swipe and you're good to go. We're not talking about your typical deodorant. It's clinical strength. It's at least twice as good at controlling sweat than the standard. And by the way, it controls both sweat and odor for 72 hours. And after 12 hours, underarm sweat, easy for me to say, was reduced by 92%. Wouldn't that be nice? 92% less sweat? Sign me up. Mando is deodorant that was re-engineered to stop odor before it even starts. It doesn't just mask the odor, it prevents it. In fact, 100% of study participants experienced all-day odor protection, so you know you will too. And they don't use any junk chemicals. No, Mando only uses premium ingredients like gentle mandelic acid. That's going to keep you fresh and dry. And Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, the cream tube deodorant for everywhere else besides your underarms. And you even get 2 free products of your choice. I recommend the mini body wash and the deodorant wipes. You even get free shipping. And as a special offer to our listeners, new customers can get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Just use the code STW at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and say hello to long-lasting freshness. Folks, we're live here. If you're curious, we are indeed live here, and we are excited to have you with us. Welcome in, everybody. I know I'm seeing some folks who are with us here for the first time. I want to give a shout out to the boss and AD and Tanner Marr and Screwface Bass and Mr. Epic and Maddie and Adam Jefferson, Johnny, Lonnie's here. I mean, we got everybody here, including great close personal friend Trigger Cheese, and he's already got a question for us. So let's start with a question because we will be taking your questions today. Think I can get a Brother Love Cena promo. Cena got me into WWE in 2004, and after years of not watching, Bruce got me back in 2019, so it would mean a lot to me. That's interesting. Do you think there's a chance? You know, we just saw Bruce on camera last year with Cody, and well, recently even did Cody's podcast. And the rumor is he may do a podcast again soon, but who knows?
with Cody or with you?
Well, we'll find out, right? Do you think there's a chance that we'll see Bruce say so long to John Cena on screen? That'd be cool.
I think it would be cool, and I think there is a chance. You know, Cena's going through this kind of this great retirement tour where he's doing guys' finishes. He's doing all kinds of stuff that he wants to do. God, good for him. He deserves every bit of it. I'm glad that he's getting to do all this. And so, yeah, if John wants it, I'm sure it'll happen. And I hope it does because that'd be a lot of fun.
AD is with us here. He's got to chime in about our Vince chat at the top of the show. He says he went bankrupt for $1 million and now he's a billionaire. That's called bouncing back, folks. We've even got another comment here, which is kind of fun. AD says grapefruits, Conrad, grapefruits. Yeah, the old genetic jackhammer turned $1 million bankruptcy into a billionaire fortune. Hey, you had a lot of fun over the weekend, and I can't wait to talk about it. We had some fun last week here on the show, and a live YouTube comment last week, just before Monday Night Raw on Netflix, suggested that you drop a line during El Nino Hamburgueso's match where you were going to say, Blimp'n Ain't easy. And to our surprise, you actually worked it in for Abismo Negro. You got to tell us how this came to be and how much were you like, hell yeah, I found a way to make it work.
Well, I was so excited about Hamburguesa, but he had some type of visa issue or something, I believe is what it was. Because I said, "Where's a hamburger?" And they said he had a visa issue or something. That's what somebody told me. I assume that's true. I don't know if it is or not. So I'm not trying to start a rumor or something. Something happened. He didn't make it. I assumed that was probably true. And I thought, oh man, I've got my Blimp'n Ain't easy line, and we're in Vegas, which makes perfect sense for it. I was gonna wait till he went to the second rope. I had it all planned. And we're in Vegas. Blimp'n Ain't easy as he came off was what I was going to say. But since he wasn't there, I looked around and there's nobody fat on the roster. So or big, I should say big boned on the roster. And so I thought I don't have a chance to say it. So I was trying to figure out where to say it. And then all of a sudden I realized that a Beastman Negro is like a mini, but a maxi mini. He's like the Andre the Giant of the minis. And so I thought it's perfect to use Blimp'n Ain't easy on a Beastman Negro. So I just threw it in there randomly. Don't know if I know that some of our guys called it. I don't know if anybody else called it or thought it was entertaining or not. I don't care.
Well, I can't wait for everybody who heard the show last week to see it. We're even getting comments right now. Chris Egan says, I popped big when he said the thing. Oddish Honor says, popped big for Blimp'n Ain't easy. I think we all took a look at that show and we just went, wait, there it is. He did it. He said it. But I'm curious, have you slipped in anything else like that maybe people haven't caught that with the benefit of hindsight is pretty damn funny?
Yeah, I did. Oh my God. I started slipping a line this weekend and I didn't do it because I don't know the new guys very well. You know, I know now, obviously I know Hunter Triple H very well, but you know, I don't know the standards and protocols, and we're a PG area, we're an X-rated area, R area. I don't have no idea who we are. Years ago when the New Day first came out and they had the unicorns and they started to talk about unicorns. Well, a herd of unicorns is a glory. A group of unicorns is a glory. So when they do that stomp in the corner, I said, he's stomping a glory hole in him.
Oh God. Oh no.
And I said that on television. And the only guy that caught it was one of the guys backstage who's a friend. I won't say who because he caught it. And he goes, did you just say? I said, yes, I did. And nobody else even acknowledged it. So when they're doing the stomp in the corner, I thought about that again. I thought, oh my God, he's stomping a glory hole in him. And but you know what? I don't know these guys well enough. You know, I knew Vince well enough that if Vince was mad, he just would have yelled at me. Wouldn't have done anything. These guys might like, what the hell's wrong with him?
Without naming any names at all, because we are using insider terms. Are there glory hole stories in wrestling? I mean, there's got to be There got to be places off the interstate that guys just say, "Hey, off route so and such state." Does that exist in wrestling, or did it exist in wrestling way back when?
To my knowledge, no. And I would tell you if it did. And the statute of limitations is up on all the stories, so I can tell you if it did. To my knowledge, no. I don't think so. Obviously there were some, but not like well known. Obviously there were some. You'd look at it and realize that's probably a very kabuki-ish massage parlor. That if you own the Patriots and had a blue Bentley, you might go to.
Okay, not that we're naming anybody specifically. Listen, this past weekend in Vegas was a home run for TKO. We talked a few minutes ago about Vince trying to promote boxing. Over the weekend, I do think we should mention this. WWE set all kinds of records, or I guess it's TKO. They promoted for the first time ever TKO boxing, Crawford and Canelo. It was unbelievable. It set a record for Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Like $47 million gate. It was on Netflix. So you got to think this might actually be one of, if not the most watched boxing event in a long, long time. What was the hype in town? I don't know that you were even in town for the fight. Were you in town for the fight? And what was just the tone and tenor of the town before such a big event?
Yeah, I left early the next morning. So I like at 6 o'clock in the morning, I had to fly to Boise to drive up to Twin Falls to get up here to Idaho. So I was not around. I flew in, I think, the night before, and the flight was delayed. So I got in right around midnight or something the night before. So I was in Vegas, but I didn't see or talk to hardly anybody except for the WWE TKO guys that were there at the arena that day. And obviously it was a big deal with the Canelo fight, but I don't know how the buzz was in Vegas because we were staying at a non-casino hotel. So that's not where, tourists and boxing fans stay. So I didn't get to feel or see any of the buzz.
We know that TKO has a lot more businesses than just WWE. Obviously UFC, that was the big merger, but they've got On Location, which is their live event arm. They've also got PBR, the professional bull riding circuit. And now Dana has started, with a little help from Saudi Arabia, TKO boxing. And I guess Dana's vision is he wants to create like a centralized body, sort of like what the UFC was for MMA. And I know if there was a jury out about whether or not it could be successful, I think we saw the answer this past weekend, don't you?
100%. I mean, these boxing guys, you just hate to talk disparaging about them, but they're idiots. I mean, they're absolute idiots. There were some great promoters in the 70s and 80s, Errol and King. Now you can talk about, how honest they were or not. That, that's a matter of, interpretation, or if you knew them, there's a lot of accusations going back and forth. Those guys were great promoters. Forget about the financial dealings. Great promoters. They knew how to build names. They knew how to promote events. They knew how to do events. These guys now don't know how to do events. The Paul brothers, that's one reason Jake Paul he knows how to do an event. I'm talking about the traditional boxing guys. They know how to put on the main show, and then they know how they just fill the undercard with nothing because it doesn't matter to them because everybody's there to see it. So you're not building any stars for your next shows. You're not entertaining people. It is an absolute waste. Most boxing shows, except for the main event, and that will completely change with TKO. I think it's not only ripe, I think it's going to be incredibly easy for them to take over. And I think they will do a remarkable job with it. Boxing it's never going to die. I certainly don't believe, but it's really, it is on a sick bed right now. It's horrible right now. And these guys are taking over a pretty easy place to be taken over.
Well, and to have such a huge record crowd, record revenue, and no doubt one of the biggest names in the history of the sport in Canelo. And now, I mean, their first event, not only did Crawford win, he won handily, and he's undefeated. I mean, take a look at that. That hook right there is the shot that everybody keeps coming back to. Have you had a chance to watch Crawford and were any of the WWE guys that you ran the roads with big boxing fans back in the day?
All of us were. All of us are big boxing fans. All of us are big UFC guys. Everybody was. We loved it. We loved every bit of it. We talked about the fights. We talked about the UFC. When it came out, we were there when it came out, and so we loved those guys. And the old guys still do. We still love talking about boxing. That Crawford is special, man. He goes up 2 weight classes against the guy that can take a punch, and he beat him. I mean, that was really impressive. You got a real star with this guy, and I think what they're gonna be able to figure out what to do with him. He's a marketable guy. He seems like a good guy. I say a good guy. He seems like the right character. Forget about the guy. You want a character, and whether that is real or not, doesn't matter. As long as it comes across as real and people like it. And I think they're going to like Crawford.
We know that it was a huge weekend for TKO in Las Vegas. We had the AAA show, we had the UFC show, we had the boxing event. This feels like once upon a time, this would have been maybe Vince's vision. According to the legend, Shane was certainly interested in Vince buying the UFC. And we know that Vince tried to promote a few different boxing events. It's kind of weird that it's finally happening, but without Vince, right?
Yeah, it is a lot of vision. Of course, smart guys come up to the same conclusions when they look at a problem. So it's not just, you don't own the answer sometimes, but Vince certainly had the answers for this. And I think a lot of this you see was Vince had a vision. Now, he never got into boxing, so it was never that he thought enough to do it. And he had a chance to buy UFC, and he turned it down. And I don't know to this day, Vince, I talked to Vince a lot about business, and Vince always told me, I don't do things where I don't know how to make money. So he had real estate people in New York that were trying to talk him into investing in real estate. And Vince said, I could make money with it. I don't understand that. I don't put money in things I don't understand. And so that's why he took chances on things that he did.
Well, we appreciate you guys taking a chance on us. Thank you for joining us here live. We're talking about this past weekend. And of course, we can't get too much further without talking about the time you had at the Cox Pavilion in Las Vegas. You were elbow and shoulders with Corey Graves and Conan. This is the second time we've seen you guys as like a trio. How do you think you guys are merging from a chemistry perspective?
Well, I don't think I'm unbiased enough to say anything about how I'm part of a team. That's somebody else to say. But I can say this about Corey and Conan. Conan's a legend that a lot of the Lucha Libre is built on. And so it's wonderful to have him there. And I think Corey is a fantastic commentator. I've always thought that. I thought since the day he came in, he's an incredibly smart guy. I'm on a text chain with him and some other guys, and it's funny. It's some funny stuff. He's a real quick wit. He's a funny, smart guy. And I like the way he works. I like the way he does research. When you sit there with him, he knows everything completely. And it's fun to be out there with him because he's so talented.
It's pretty cool to see Corey in the lead seat. We've seen him in the number 2 chair a lot in the confines of WWE, but there's an opportunity now for him to be the lead voice. I thought he's done a fantastic job. And I know Conan hasn't done commentary for a long time, but his product knowledge is second to none, isn't it?
It is 100%. And you can't replicate that. I don't care what you put in that chair. The guy will never be Conan. And Conan has done it all. The first Triple Mania, he headlined it in an Apuesta match, a bet match, 48,000 people when you weren't seeing ticket sales anywhere in the world. He put almost 100,000 people in a building for Triple Mania. He's done it all. He's an absolute legend, and he's a very sharp guy. He learned under some terrific bookers, Kevin Sullivan being one of them, and he's done a great job with AAA. And it's fun to be out there with him because he knows everything. He'll tell you, I knew his brother, I knew his uncle, I knew his dad. He'll tell you all kinds of things about him. You don't get that by somebody just looking up over the internet of notes and research. It's a huge difference having a guy like Conan out there.
It's super fun to take a look at what the show looks like. If you've not seen a AAA WWE show, I encourage you to check it out. We flipped it over for a few minutes. The wife and I did on Friday. And as you know, John, Megan, not a big wrestling fan, but she said, as we were watching, she said, I think I'd rather go see this than a regular WWE show. And I said, I'm interested. Why is that? And she thought it was bright and colorful. It felt like everyone was right out of a Marvel movie, and there was less drama, meaning there's less 20-minute in-ring promos, and there was more of a focus on the spectacle. And it felt more like, I don't want to compare it to Cirque du Soleil or Disney on Ice or something like that. That seems disparaging, but it felt like something you didn't have to have a lot of knowledge prior to. You could just come in cold, sit down, enjoy the show, and move on. And I thought that was fascinating, because if this were to wind up being like, well, hell, it was in Las Vegas. If they had like a residency somewhere and you could just buy tickets to go see this, I think a lot of people would choose to go see this rather than a Cirque du Soleil or a magic show or something like that. Don't you?
100%. And you're 100% right about that. I was asked after the show, and I was asked before the show by a bunch of the WWE guys, some of the guys that are, in management, how are you having fun? I'm having a blast. I mean, there's nothing against regular wrestling matches. Okay. I've seen thousands of them. I've been in thousands of them, but it's fun to go to a variety show. You've got minis, you've got exoticas, which is, Pimpinella wasn't there, but you got exoticas. You got fantastic characters and men and women, and they're of all sizes and shapes. And it's just fun. I mean, it's just fun calling a million different things. It truly is a variety show. And I can see why Lucha is so popular. It's kind of wild watching them bring it into kind of wrestling mainstream. And the reason I say that is, they're now in a four-sided ring. They're tagging, which is they're not accustomed to. And you see them, I can see them out there, having a little bit of issues with trying to get back in the lucha style and kind of in the new style that had some standards to make it a little bit easier for American fans to understand it, which I think is very important. But it's fun to watch it kind of morph a little bit.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, this is your second time now seeing more serious Natalya. She calls herself Natty, much different presentation. Are you a fan of that presentation, and do you hope we see it in WWE?
Yes, I am, and I really have enjoyed it the two times I've called the matches. I was really good friends with her dad, Jim, and so I'm so proud of her because of my love for her father. And remember when she came in, she's done something to reinvent herself, and she's done that by herself. And I have a lot of respect and admiration for that. I mean, that's cool to me. That really takes something in you that you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone and go do some things that you're not making incremental money for. I mean, you may be getting a little bit, you may be getting a little extra exposure, but you could sit back and keep your guaranteed contract, or I don't know if it's guaranteed or not, whatever your contract is. Natty's really done some great stuff, and she's found a way to reinvent herself without having to go through a dramatic makeover. It's simply Natalya to Natty, and that's really cool to me.
Well, the biggest story over the weekend, of course, coming out of that show is Dominik Mysterio. Dominik Mysterio used to be a guy, when he appeared on WWE programming, booed out of the building, and not in a good way. Go away heat is what some might call it. Little did we know he would become one of the hottest heels in the business. And then over the weekend, he finds himself not only holding the Intercontinental Championship in WWE, but he manages to defeat the AAA mega champion Vikingo. He had a little bit of an assist from El Grande Americano, but still, this is a big deal. You've got a Mysterio with the mega championship. You were there ringside for this. How proud were you for Dom and his dad? Oh man,
he's such a great young man. From the time he came in, I was there when he's doing stuff with Eddie. He's always been a good guy. And you root for people like this. I love his father, and I think the world, man, Ray's, you can't get a better human being on the planet. And he's got this son that he just takes such good. Ray has such pride in this young man. It's just really cool to see this father-son relationship that, it's I think it's kind of how it's supposed to be. I don't know if anybody has ever, it's almost, like you see something off the old 1950s TV shows. That's like, no way, it's not that good. It really is that good. It's really pretty cool. And I think Dom is doing it. He has great feel. I mean, I remember he went out in some show, and I was there at Raw, and he said something in Spanish, and he said it in the middle of his promo, and he got heat like crazy. And we were in a place somewhere up north. It was mainly a white crowd. They had no idea what he said, but the way he said it was there was so much venom to it. When he came back, I said, Dom, that is just amazing. No one knew what you said. And I said, I don't either. But you got all kinds of terrific heat off of it because the way you said it. That's just a matter of feel. And you can't teach feel. You can refine it a little bit. You can help people get a little bit of it. You can't teach feel. You're either born with that or you're not. And he's born with a ton of it.
I gotta ask if we can have Silva throw one of those pictures up of the Mysterios together. There's been speculation today. I don't know if you saw this, John, but a lot of people are wondering. I mean, if you take a look at these characters and you know that it's happening in AAA, are we going to see a hair versus mask match one day with these two? And can you imagine? That would have to be the biggest AAA show in history. Like they could find the biggest stadium in all of Mexico City and fill it for that one, don't you think?
You better get that stadium from Korea that they filled up and bring it to Mexico City. Are you kidding me? That Mexico loves Dominic. I mean, it loves him. It loves him. They want him as he is. They don't want him to cater to them. They want him to be Dirty Dom. They love him, and they love his father. Yes, hair versus mask, brother. You're going to break every record in the book. I don't know of a bigger match. There'll never be one in the history of Mexico that'll be bigger than this. El Santo, Mil, all these guys, Vampiro, Conan, nobody will be able to touch that.
You know, it's interesting because if we were to have an American equivalent, there'd be a lot of griping online about all these outsiders are coming in and taking our top spots. But I think in Mexico, they'd be like, are you kidding? Ray versus his kid? Sign me up.
That's the same thing. You know, it's the same thing with the freaking Grand Americano. You know, everybody's like, oh my goodness, don't do this character. It's awful. He goes down to Mexico. They love the guy. You know, Mexican fans just want to be entertained. They want to have fun. You know, it's your hardcore guys that, you know, get on the internet, that they're the guys that just want to bitch about stuff. I was watching Grand Americano talk to Conan backstage in Spanish. He didn't know Spanish 2 months ago. They were sitting there talking Spanish. It looks like he's fluent. I think he's more conversational, but it's remarkable. I mean, he has worked incredibly hard to do what he's been going out of Mexico. He's getting involved in the culture. I mean, he is going all in on this character. It is really impressive what he's doing.
I can't wait for us to spend a little more time and talk about AAA. But first, I want to brag about our friends at Legal Buddy. You know, life happens fast. 1 minute you're driving home after work, and the next, well, you see flashing lights in your rearview mirror. Your heart skips, your hands tighten on the wheel, and you start asking yourself, what do I do now? That's when you need someone on your side. And with the Legal Buddy app, you can connect with a local attorney in seconds, not hours, not days, but right when you need the help. Whether it's a DWI, a car accident, a criminal charge, or even just a traffic ticket, the Legal Buddy app puts real legal support right in your pocket. Imagine having an attorney on call, ready to guide you through some of life's most stressful moments. This is not a call center. This isn't a waiting game. This is direct access to a lawyer who understands your situation and your community, who could step in right away. Think about it. When trouble knocks, do you want to face that alone? Or would you rather have the confidence of knowing a professional is already on your side? That's the peace of mind Legal Buddy gives you. And here's how easy it is. Just download the Legal Buddy app at legalbuddyapp.com. Register today and use the referral code LEGAL for your chance to win a $250 Amazon gift card. Life is unpredictable. Accidents happen. Tickets happen. Mistakes happen. But when they do, you won't have to go through it alone. The Legal Buddy app, always on your side. Download the app today and enter the referral code LEGAL. Hey, I wanted to bring up one more thing about Lucha, and then we'll move on to some American wrestling. But we saw an interview with Conan that I thought was interesting, because I know that this acquisition of AAA has been received not all positive in Mexico at times. We'll just say that. And Conan has a different perspective. He did an interview recently with Fightful. Denise Saldeco is the person who landed this interview. Shout out to her. And Conan said something like, Rob Viper recommended Commander to me years ago. I saw him and he was very green and raw. I brought him to AAA and wanted to start to cultivate him. Now he's in AEW making more money than he's ever made, and he was crying. He was crying because if you saw where he came from, it would make you cry. He comes from poverty. All these guys come from poverty. Maybe the second generation guys don't, but all these guys, WWE gives them a different lifestyle. Better hotels, better transportation. Mexico is rough. That ain't for the weak stomach. That is a rough place to wrestle. The rings are hard, security concerns. A lot of people who aren't professional. A lot of times the transportation is not the best. To see them be able to help their family and live a better lifestyle really makes me happy. And when Denise mentioned, is there better pay across the board? Conan confirmed 100%. And he said, I think the main thing is it's going to change. That's going to change a lot of the Mexican wrestlers. They're not motivated because they're not getting paid that much. Alberto Del Rio was motivated because this was his last chance, and he came through with flying colors, to tell the truth. A lot of these guys are not in shape, not professional, not media savvy. Once they find out what these guys are making, they'll get in shape. They'll learn to be professional and they'll become media savvy. You don't have any idea how many times digital or media has to call me and tell me, can you tell this person to send in a video for the show we're having? Or can you tell this local promoter? And I have to tell them the promotion is for you, not for me. You don't have to get in your car, get gas and park somewhere. It's from your phone. How lazy can you be? WWE, all those wrestlers are media savvy. It'll be more competition across the board because everybody wants to go there and make more money and get merch money. I think he's saying the quiet part out loud. I know a lot of people are saying, well, this company's 100% Mexican owned, but now with WWE, AAA is not the same. What we're talking about is paying the guys more money and giving them a better quality of life. And I think sometimes in our wrestling fandom, that message gets lost, John. And I'm glad that Conan was able to shine a light on that.
Yeah, me too. Look, I want to tell you guys, the guys that are out there that are saying this, I was in pro wrestling and I was in the territories. Fuck you. Now I'm in sports entertainment. And you talk about a difference from having all kinds of medical people that can take care of you. You talk about making more money. We didn't make money in pro wrestling. And look, and I know I'm just picking terms here, but those days of people say, oh, Vince was changing wrestling. Yeah, thank God he did. Because now these guys are now flying private. These guys are now got their buses around when they're, of course, not doing many house shows anymore. But it's just it's a complete different game. And I was there for the old one. I've seen it. I was there in Mexico back in the 90s. And, when I came down there this last time, and I want to be fair, Dorian and Conan took very good care of me. They always had, incredible care of me. So I have no complaints. Those are two fantastic people. Conan's obviously a very smart guy. We would take the mass trans buses to shows. So I would ride on a bus with, just everybody else. No air conditioning on the bus. Have to roll down the window. You'd go up to Matamoros or Nuevo Laredo or wherever you're going and then go back to Monterey. Things are changing significantly. And so if these guys are saying, no, it's not holding to a traditional pattern. Excellent. The traditional pattern, guys were broke. I'm not talking about just about in Conan. I'm talking about in my day in wrestling. You look at these guys who were big names in territories. They didn't make huge money, and they were huge names. If you could change that dynamic and put them in a different place years later, these guys would have made a fortune, and they should have because they're worthy of that. Same as these guys are in AAA down here. Things have changed. I've been down there before, going down there for a year with AAA. Now that WWE has taken over, and again, Dorian and Conan took excellent care of me when coming down there. But things have changed significantly. There's all kinds of opportunities for these guys now. I think it's an incredible thing. One of the best things that could ever happen to Lucha Libre was WWE stepping in and buying AAA.
Well, we can't wait to see what's next. Maddie, before we move on, wants to know, John, in your opinion, who stole the show at Worlds Collide?
I thought a couple things. I thought the mini Mascarita Sagrada. Good Lord, he's 60 years old.
That's still impressive.
That guy's just, I love that guy. I talk to him all the time. He doesn't speak great English, and I don't speak hardly any Spanish, but he's such a nice guy. I love seeing him. He's just got an infectious smile when you see him, and he just does an incredible job. But I thought New Day and Psycho Clown and Pagano had a great match. I thought there were a lot of terrific highlights for the show. I mean, I thought the whole show was pretty good up and down.
Did you know that Mini Abismo Negro was portrayed by someone who doesn't even work for AAA and has never portrayed the character before that day?
I saw that in the notes that you sent. That was the first time I heard of that. A lot of, the thing about it is these guys are very respectful and very nice guys. But a lot of them, if they don't speak English, and I don't speak hardly any Spanish, will come up and say hello, or I'll say hi to them. So I don't really get a chance to talk to them. So I don't know them very well. I just kind of say hello to them, and whatever I can say in Spanish, whatever they can say in English is kind of all the pleasantries they get past. So I don't know a lot of the luchadors, that's the ones that aren't fluent in English, because I don't have a chance to be able to talk to them.
It's pretty wild to think that fellow worked at the ECW arena at an indie show, but still, it was a Ring of Honor building. And then a few days later, he's in Mexico. I mean, not Mexico, Las Vegas, working a AAA WWE show. I don't think we'll see that again anytime soon. So
I don't think we'll either, but what about Masquerita Sagrada? I mean, that guy, a 60-year-old mini, and he is just fantastic. I mean, that kid, I say kid because they say kid when they're small. Then he's older than me, 2 years older than me. Man, is he good? It's so fun to watch him.
Why do you think Vince never really made a push for that? I mean, I know that, a lot of these guys, including him, had a cup of coffee with WWE, but there was not really sustained promotion. And we've heard for years and years from Bruce that Vince was always looking for his quote unquote Mighty Mouse. It feels like Vince would have loved that, but we never really got it. And, Little People in Wrestling goes back a long time. You would see those old poster cards on like telephone poles and things, and it would list like 8 big matches, and it would say at the bottom, and this is just the word they use, plus girls and midget matches. Right. And so it was always an attraction in wrestling, but Vince never really doubled down on it. I mean, I know we had Dink, and I know somebody's going to point that out, and I know there was the one match at WrestleMania 3, but I mean, there wasn't like a through line where we had generations of this and we had a sustained run of it. Why do you think that is?
Savio brought a bunch of the little guys into a strip bar one time, and he was the one there riding with Savio. And and when they came in, they were like 3 of them wearing an overcoat. And when they paid the fee to get the cover to get in, as soon as they came in, they opened up the overcoat. All were on the other one's shoulders. So there were like 6 of them that paid 3 covers, and everybody thought it was so funny, including the owner. So it was very entertaining guys. I think that Vince had an idea for it, and he had an idea for women too, and he didn't do either. For whatever reason, maybe it was the sign of the times or whatever it was. Nobody's really done anything with the minis at all until, I guess, probably the last 15, 20 years, I would think. Is that right? In Mexico, Pena was the first one that kind of brought them in and really started using them in a good way, not a comedy way. But we had women back then that were very talented. Stacy and Tori were great athletes, could have been great wrestlers. That wasn't their role. And so I think it's more just a sign of you had a lot of things that could have been in the wrestling in different ways and just wasn't because of either culture or because of that's the way it was always done.
We got to bring up another piece of wrestling history. We talked about things we might not see sometime soon. Instagram a wrestling historian says world and intercontinental double champions, the Ultimate Warrior, Triple H, and Dominik Mysterio. What a group that sounds like a joke. The Ultimate Warrior, Triple H, and Dom Mysterio walk into a bar, right? I mean, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's what a great stat that is from Instagram story. That's a pretty cool little piece of trivia right there.
Well, we are looking forward to talking about John's top 5s, but before we do that, I do want to brag on some of our ad-free shows support members. Top guy, Coach Keith Morrison, has been with us, almost 4 years now. He joined back in December of 2021. He's one of the family members with us over at adfreeshows.com. Chris Parcella has been with us for over 5 years. Talk about a legacy. Greatly appreciate your support, Chris. And want to welcome to the club new member just a few days ago, Casey Byers, joining us over at adfreeshows.com. And if you remember last week, you would have been talking to JBL live on a Zoom. He was live at adfreeshows.com, and you may be thinking to yourself, well, they do ask JBL anything every now and then here on the podcast. So what's the big deal? Well, this isn't just typing a question on YouTube. You're actually going to be on a Zoom. John can see you. You can see John, and you have a little conversation. Let's take a look.
If Eddie was still here, how much fun would you be having with him down in AAA with those run-ins?
Oh, holy cow. Oh my God. Yeah, what a fun that would be with Eddie in AAA. That would be unbelievable. I mean, the one regret I have in life, people talk about, what regrets you have. I don't really have regrets. I regret that Eddie's not here, because I'd love for Eddie to be around just to talk to him, because he was such a wonderful human being and such a fun person to be around. For him to be around at, kind of like my age and be out there at AAA and doing some stuff here or there, that would be absolutely magical. I wish the world was robbed when Eddie died of a lot of years of really great top flight entertainment, because Eddie still had so much left in him.
Join us right now over at adfreeshows.com. Where else can you hang out with all these WWE Hall of Famers? Only at adfreeshows.com. You can join for as little as $9 a month, and you get access to exclusive events like this, plus more than, and I'm not kidding around, 100,000 hours of bonus content. Sign up right now at adfreeshows.com. But right now it's time for our top 5 of the week. We're talking a lot of international. So I thought, why not have JBL's top 5 international wrestling moments? We're going to have some fun with this one. Coming in first at number 5. You want to talk about international? Let's go across the pond. Big Daddy, one of the biggest icons in the history of Europe, taking on Giant Haystacks. I guess they had a legendary series of matches and an incredible feud. Why does this come in at number 5 for you, though, John?
Because it's one of the biggest things that ever happened to UK wrestling. I mean, you talk to any old wrestling fan, it's like talking to a Texas fan. He'll ask you about Fritz Von Erich or the Von Erich boys. It's talking to an old Carolina fan. He's going to ask you about Flair or the Four Horsemen. You talk about go down to Florida and somebody that grew up there, they're going to ask you about Eddie Graham and the Briscoe brothers. If you were around, you knew Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. And what's kind of cool about this, which is just kind of a side thing, is, the matches that, let's say, Marty Jones and Fit Finlay had, I mean, those things were almighty, man. To this day, people can't do that, what they did. It was just amazing. And then you have these two guys who couldn't do any of it, Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy. But they were huge draws. I mean, you had everything in English wrestling at the time. You had some of the best wrestlers in the world. You still do. I love these English wrestlers. They're all so well trained. They know the craft so well. But then when some anomaly comes along and you had two of them at the same time. Big Daddy, in fact, his nephew Earl with a O played at Huddersfield Rugby for years. A Hall of Famer there, I believe. A real legend. A good guy. Big 6'6", 6'7" guy. Horrible broken nose. Should have been in wrestling, but he loved playing rugby league, not rugby union. But Shirley Crabtree, Big Daddy, just drew money. I mean, it was an event between him and Haystacks every time they stepped in the ring in the 70s. Now, you had the same time you had guys like Tony St. Clair, who were the undisputed champion for well over a decade. But it always went back to these guys. You had your Finlay, you had your St. Clair, but you always went back to Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. It was just something that was integral to UK wrestling.
No doubt, probably two of the biggest stars, literally, of British wrestling on network TV. But now we're going south of the border for number 4.
Number 4.
Number 4 on JBL's top 5 international wrestling moments. The first Triple Mania. This went down in 93, I think? Yeah. April 30th, 1993. There's over 48,000 people in the building. Another 6,000 watching on a screen from the parking lot. I mean, you couldn't fit another person in there. And I know some of you may not know this. One of your favorite podcasters was in the main event. Conan is here, and he's putting his career on the line in a best 2 of 3 falls match. He was the top star in the entire country. I mean, arguably the top star in the industry at that point, is based on number of tickets sold. And somehow, some way, he lost. No one expected that curveball. But why does Triple Mania make the list for you at number 4?
I think because it changed the wrestling world. I think it changed everything. And, during 92, you were one time reading some stuff during 92 about how about 100 tickets were sold for a WWE event up in the United States. 100, not 10,000, not 1,000, 100 tickets sold. Tickets were not being sold during that time in North America. Conan puts 48,000 people in this. Conan, he was the headliner. He was the one that drew a big part of the crowd. Obviously had a dancing partner, but Antonio Pena creates this and changes the world. You had CMLL, incredible company, great company, but now all of a sudden you've got this upstart that has done this thing that nobody else in the world could do except for the guys in Japan, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit. New Japan, incredible time. And it changed the world. It changed everything. And all of a sudden you're seeing what's coming from 1992 to now. And now I think you're seeing this culmination of it with Dorian and his mother there from the old legacy, and now in with WWE. And I think you're going to see something really cool. I think now the first Triple Mania that was a combination was a good bookend for this. That was just this past year in Mexico City. So the first Triple Mania and this last one, this Triple Mania, it's a terrific bookend. Now you've got this new era of going forward. We talked about, the Mexican wrestling, the money, it's different. They made a lot of money in AAA off of sponsorships and not really ticket sales or TV. That's all going to change. And all of a sudden, all the social media is going to change. We're going to see something completely different in the world the next 5 to 10 years, but it's all because of what Antonio Pena did in 1992 with Conan, or 93, whenever it was.
Yeah, April of 1993. It was a super show in Mexico, but we're going totally different direction for another super show at number 3.
Number 3.
We talked about a mega show in Mexico. Probably no surprise that we're going to be talking about a mega show at the Tokyo Dome. When New Japan debuted at the Tokyo Dome, the very first time they were at the Tokyo Dome, it was April 24th, 1989. It's called Battle Satellite in the Tokyo Dome. This was the debut of the Jushin Thunder Liger character. It featured an MMA style match with Antonio Inoki. And there was a tournament to crown a new IWGP heavyweight champion. This is big stuff across the board for New Japan here, is it not?
Yeah, it's huge. And all of them set all kinds of things in motion since then. That's why I chose them. I thought the AAA debut of Triple Mania in 93, same thing with New Japan in the early 90s. It's changing everything. And because of that, now the Tokyo Dome has become the mecca of big events. You're always going to have Budokan. You're always going to have Korakuen, which is 2 terrific arenas. But there's something about that Tokyo Dome. And now if you want to be the biggest star in Japan, you've got to either be part of this show or you got to figure out a way to sell out the Tokyo Dome. And it changed everything. You love when someone comes along. It's like when Vince changed everything with WrestleMania. This is exactly what happened with these companies. For them, this is all their WrestleManias.
Well, we got to talk about something. What's great about doing this show with you is I always learn something historical. And man, we're going way back for the next one.
Number 2.
Jim Lundos in Greece in 1933. Lord have mercy. I know Mr. Briscoe was there front and center. But what are you telling us about Lundos? And man, I don't even know how to pronounce this fella's name. What? Kawani?
That's close enough.
Okay. All right. We got to hear about this. I mean, I guess the story is they drew like 100,000 people or something crazy.
That was the rumor, and people don't know if it was 70 or 80,000 or 100,000. It's kind of they're not sure. I talked to some people. Steve Johnson is a terrific historian, and he has some views that kind of spread between somewhere I think between 70 and 100,000. So they're not 100% sure. It was huge, whatever it was. He was an absolute national celebrity in Greece. He was a Greek immigrant that came over, and during the Jim Crow era. And of days when you had baseball was segregated, people hated Jack Johnson, not because he's a great boxer, but because of his race and his skin color. And this Greek immigrant became the biggest star in the world during this time, bigger than Babe Ruth, bigger than anybody else that was any other sport, anything. And when he goes back to Greece, you realize how big he was. And it truly started taking wrestling global. You'd always had wrestling that had gone around. Jim Londos was the first one to take wrestling global. He went all over the world. There's a picture of it there. That's why, records, you don't just have records that, of ticket sales. So the gate could have been over 100,000. Either way, it was full. And it was a day that, Greece celebrated, and they celebrate to this day. But it was the first time that wrestling had started getting global. And Jim Londos was the one. I think Jim Londos is the most important guy probably in the history of wrestling.
I've heard you say that a lot. I mean, we know that he sold out in Madison Square Garden in 1931. And you see here, allegedly 110,000 fans in September of 1933. It's crazy to think it was this time of year, but damn near 100 years ago. It's hard to even imagine wrestling back then, much less being able to draw that many people. And the only other time we've heard that number really thrown around is if you go back and you look at North Korea.
Right.
Realistically, and maybe this is crazy, is the only other opportunity to draw like that in India, or is there somewhere else where you could draw 100,000? Do you think?
That's a great question. I think India is the one. Definitely. I mean, India is ripe for this. The social media has really taken off in India, but it's not because it's a little bit of a misnomer in India. It's not because people have ascended to the middle class. That's what people are reading it as. It's because because Ambani has gotten so cheap, and the lower income levels are getting it, and the proliferation of media has more to do with that than it does with the ascendance, unfortunately, of people into the middle class. But you still can sell massive amount of tickets just because of having 1.4 or 1.5, whatever it is, billion people in the country. So yeah, I think that would be the one. We had Christine Londos at the Tragos Thez Hall of Fame on a panel with Steve Johnson. Terrific panel. And Steve was reading off, he was the first and the most of 10,000 people shows, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. I mean, Londo set every single record there was, and he was selling out in the middle of the Depression. And every time something went wrong, they called him to come back and save wrestling. It was just an incredible time. But I think that draw overseas, I think it could still be done. It's either going to be, it may be obviously one of the big population centers, but I think it could be India or even China.
Well, it's time. You know what's next.
Number 1.
Probably no surprise if you've been paying attention to the way you study wrestling history. Ricky Dozan and the Inoki Baba split. Drop some knowledge on us from Japan here, John.
Yeah, Ricky Dozan starting up at 54 when he took a little hiatus and then came back 57, had the big match with Thez, starts up pro wrestling. He is basically the founder of pro wrestling. I mean, that is such a big part of what we do. Without that and that man right there, Ricky Dozan, we don't have that. It may have come along later, and it probably would because, wrestling was starting to spread around the globe. But without Ricky Dozan, it doesn't happen like it did. And then when you have from that, after Dozan is gone, you have Inoki and Baba split. That was a really big deal in the 70s because now all of a sudden you have competing companies over there, and that gave us some incredible rivalries, some incredible talent that would be loyal to one and not work for the other. It was an incredible time, but it was all started because of Ricky Dozan. Just an incredible time in wrestling history.
Is there an argument you think that Ricky Dozan's death in 1963 should be in this top spot as well?
Yes. Yeah, he was that big. He was that big in wrestling. He was that important. He was that big in wrestling. Yeah, he was everything. I mean, it's hard to overstate how important he was to the business. And the one reason that I didn't put the North Korea collision in there, no offense to our friend Eric, there wasn't much follow up to it. Ricky Dozan founding the wrestling, there was a big deal to it. Jim Londos going overseas and spreading wrestling. There was a lot of things to that. Big Daddy, a lot of things that followed it. He didn't really follow up with North Korea, and no fault for Eric's or WCW. It just didn't work out that way. And so that was the reason that I didn't have that collision in Korea in the top 5.
Have you heard the story? I mean, I guess some of our listeners may not know this, but Ricky Dozan died because he was stabbed. And allegedly, they had intentionally tainted the blade to make sure that they were planting infection in his body that they knew this would kill him. Is that the way you've heard this story?
I've heard that rumor, yes. Yeah. There's all kinds of rumor and innuendo, as they say, about Ricky's death.
Of course, if we were to include some honorable mentions from the WWE side of things, Bret Hart and Davey Boy Smith at SummerSlam 1992, that made your list as an honorable mention. That's obviously something that's near and dear to everyone my age. We all grew up with that. And you even put WWE's Greatest Royal Rumble in 2018. I think that would have been one of the first major Saudi events. Why does that one make your list?
Because that opened up the door to WWE going to the Middle East. And I think that's going to be massive in the next few years. What WWE is going to do with the Saudis, specifically, not just the Middle East, but specifically with the Saudis. You look at what they're doing with golf. You look at what they've done with soccer. I mean, those guys they're force multipliers, and their money is not just about buying something for no reason at all to put their name on something. they're force multipliers, and things that they have bought have so far turned out very well. And I think you're going to see the same thing happen with WWE. Not that they're buying WWE, but they're certainly partnering with WWE. And I think that first one that went over there, that was such a good show, and things worked out so well. I think that led to what we're seeing now.
You even had an honorable mention in here with Great Gama from 1910 in India. I don't even know the story of this, John. What can you tell us about
The
that?
Great Gama was everything in India. I mean, he was Ricky Dozan times 10. He was everything. I mean, he was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. The guy was legendary. His feats of strength, you don't know what's legit and what isn't, because a lot of it was hype, and so you don't really know. He was a badass. He was a bad man. That was the 1910s, 1911s. They drew massive crowds over there, and it was all the Great Gama. The Great Gama was the one that drew every bit of it. So all this you see in India now, just like Japan owes it all to Ricky Dozan, they owe it all to the Great Gama. The Great Gama was that big of a talent.
Hey, speaking of big, can we brag about Blue Chew here for a minute? Guys, it's time to enter the room Duke first. Blue Chew isn't just a tablet. It's a cheat code for your crotch. Stronger, harder, longer lasting. Like somebody gave your downstairs a pep talk and a gym membership. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. Last time I took a Blue Chew, my dick got sponsored by an energy drink company and then refused to do missionary, saying it was bad for the brand, extreme positions only. All right, guys, we're not talking just about performance. We're talking about legacy or third legacy. Give her group chat something to talk about. When you lay it down, they're talking about how it gets up. Nothing makes you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. Go discover your options right now at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use the promo code WRESTLE at checkout and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head on over to bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And a big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. Hey, John, we got to talk about the big news that everybody's been buzzing about. This came out last week since you and I have sat down to record. And, well, it wasn't all positive, but you're on the inside, not all the way, but you know enough about what's going on in the wrestling biz. But WrestleMania 43 was announced, and it's international. And I don't mean Toronto like they've done a couple of times. It's going to Saudi Arabia. And this was obviously a huge announcement that happened in Las Vegas. It was made official by Triple H on Friday at a press conference, but the news had actually leaked the day before, and people had some really, really strong opinions, and not all of them were good. Now, this is not a surprise that WWE is doing business in Saudi Arabia. I mean, we just referenced the 2018 Greatest Royal Rumble. Hell, that was 7 years ago. So this isn't necessarily a new thing. And I think a lot of fans were taking it personally that WrestleMania is not going to be here in America, or that it's going across the pond. And, well, allegedly, I wasn't there. But fans were sort of booing this and chanting, "You sold out," and even typing it in the group chat, on YouTube. And I saw a lot of thumbs down. And why do you think fans are reacting this way so negatively, John? How would you respond to that?
I can't judge motives, so I don't know their motive for, why they're doing it. Are they doing it for selfish reasons? Or are they doing it because, and I say motives, I know why they're doing it. Obviously, they're doing it because of the Saudi Arabia news. I don't know if it's a selfish motive as, hey, I just want to be heard, I'm a spoiled brat, or if I really believe this and that's my voice speaking out. So I don't know where they're coming from. I think it's misguided. I don't think, obviously we're not the moral police, and you say, well, you can't do business with this country because of this. You can list that for pretty much any country, including ours, pretty easily. And so I get people want to have their voice heard. I 100% do not agree with that dissent at all.
Yeah, what's interesting is I agree with you. Like if you talk to folks, and I know we're all biased because we're American and proud to be American, and I shouldn't say we're all, but you and I are. And I know that other corners of the world, man, they don't always think fondly of these United States of America. So it's not really all that different in the regard that, some people have a bias. And I know that there are lots of political reasons that people feel that way and all that sort of thing. But I'll be honest, the first time I saw a Saudi show, when they showed the crowd and they showed little kids excited to see their heroes, man, it changed my opinion in a big way. because I remember being that little kid and being excited to see Hulk Hogan. And I know that there are adults who are upset for political reasons, but I'm excited for the kids who have the opportunity to get a WrestleMania, because think of those little super fans over in Saudi Arabia. They never thought they were going to get a WrestleMania or a big show like this, but now there's a show of consequence. And I think that's kind of cool if I was a Saudi Arabian fan and I had grown up loving wrestling and this was my new favorite passion, I'd be on cloud nine. And I don't think it's fair that those little kids who are the fans of John Cena and Cody Rhodes, they deserve a chance to see this too, don't they?
I 100% agree. And when you had women over there for one of the first times in the Middle East countries, the fans at one point chanted, "This is change." And I think that's important. I think it's important to work with these countries. We have historical precedents to show, at least in my opinion, and this is my opinion, there's not a fact here, it's my opinion, that what works and what doesn't with isolating countries. 90 miles off the coast of Key West, there's enough renewable stuff in the port of Moa, in the mines there, to furnish most of our renewable energy needs in America for a lot of the different elements. Most of it goes to China, because China now is with Cuba. So you look at what happened in Cuba specifically, not just the mine there. That's something economic. That's just something that could benefit what we need as far as our security. But you look at what happened in Cuba. For 65 years plus, we put an embargo on these people because it is a swing vote in a swing state of Florida. And so we're not realistic with it. All we have done is impoverish an entire country that's 90 miles from Key West. We almost had a nuclear war 13 days in the 60s because of that. Then they go to Venezuela. Then they move into China. Now you have the Chinese in Cuba, because we won't deal with Cuba because it's political. It's a swing vote in a swing state. Same thing with North Korea. When you isolate these countries and don't deal with them at all, it is shown historically that nothing changes, and all you do is impoverish an entire nation, because your leaders are going to take their money anyway. They're going to take it from the people. But look at what we did differently with Russia. Now, Russia still has issues, but Russia has a lot more rights than they did in the 60s. In the 60s when we started the embargo on Cuba. Certainly in the 80s when the Cold War fell, when the Iron Curtain fell. Same with China. We started opening up China. Do they have issues still? 100%. But have rights gotten a lot better? They've gotten remarkably better. You want to deal with Cuba, in my opinion, send down Marriott and Hilton and Buffalo Wild Wings. Send down Apple stores. Let people see what is out there in the world. Let them make their own decisions. You will see change, in my opinion. You don't get that by isolation. And when you send something like WWE over to Saudi Arabia, I don't want to overstate what an entertainment company is. I think that's something that opens up the world. And you see that when you see these kids' eyes. You see that when you hear the fans chanting, "This is change." You see that when you see women wrestling. Are there a lot of things wrong? Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of things wrong. A lot of things wrong with our country too. I mean, if you're looking at our country from the outside in, if you're the moral police, you might not want to do business with us either. I think there's reasons to do things, and I think what WWE is doing is good.
Here's the reality. I think everybody has should be afforded the opportunity to be better and do better. And I really want to celebrate and focus on those kids who are going to be excited that they're getting their first WrestleMania. Like, I know it's kind of cheesy, but man, more than 10 years ago, I heard WWE for the first time say, "We're here to put smiles on people's faces." And that's who's going to be in that crowd. A bunch of smiling little kids who were fired up that WWE's in Saudi Arabia. So I guess the next question is, and this is just a guess, we had Raj Giri on Eric Bischoff's podcast last week, and he freestyled a guess that he thinks the rights fee for WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia will be a multiple of what they've been making, John. And allegedly, they've been making like $50 million per event. Do you think this is 150? Is it 200? What will the number be when it's disclosed?
These guys I'd hate to be on the other side of negotiation from these guys in WWE because these guys can negotiate, man. It's going to be huge, absolutely huge, but it's worth it to the kingdom to do that. I mean, it's been worth it to them to get what they've gotten, from soccer to golf to all the things that they've done. They're making themselves they've got this sovereign wealth fund that they're doing so much stuff with. And a lot of it has to do with becoming something different in the world than just a petrol monarchy, which they're not a monarchy, but essentially they are. They want to be something different. And so they're willing to pay for this. And it's very similar to, you say overpaying, not politically in any ways. You know, Rupert Murdoch, when he got MLB and NFL in the 90s, they said, man, he overpaid for those. He'll never get that back, which he learned that from Jim Barnett, by the way, in Australia. It made Fox getting those TV contracts. I think it will do a lot for Saudi Arabia, getting all this entertainment properties to put them in a different place in the world, which is where they want to be. Now, forget all the political stuff. This is a country that is trying to get away from the petrol-based economy and do something different. And I think they've got a legit plan here it certainly appears to be working.
I do want to ask, there's a lot of fans who are upset who normally go to every WrestleMania, and they're saying, oh, this is going to cost way more now. There's speculation. I don't know if this is real or not. Who knows for sure? But there's speculation that they may do 2 WrestleManias that year, same way they did a Royal Rumble here in America and then a Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia in 2018. And one of the places I've heard bandied about is the new stadium that's being built for the Titans in Nashville. And I think a Nashville WrestleMania, the first time they've ever been there, would be huge. I mean, it is the bachelorette capital of the world. I didn't even know there were that many weddings happening. But it is just a party town. And much like New Orleans, I think it would be a gigantic success. And I know you don't have any inside information, and we're just freaking guessing. But do you think there will be 2 WrestleManias in 2027? And if so, how do you think Nashville would do as a WrestleMania town?
Okay, couple things. Short answer, yes. Will there be 2 WrestleManias? Yes. Now, they may not call it the other one WrestleMania. It may be WrestlePalooza or something else. They're gonna take. You understand when you're in Saudi Arabia, now all these fans that come to Vegas, the fans that come over from Europe and have that incredible day, the day after WrestleMania when they hijack the show on Monday nights and they have so much fun and it's such a fun show to be a part of and you have the whole weekend, that's taken away from those fans because of Saudi Arabia for the most part. I think they're going to replace that with something else. Now, whether they call that WrestleMania America version or WrestleMania, whatever some other version, I don't know. And they may make a new name for it, but I think they're going to have a separate big weekend in the United States that's not too close to it, probably, that fills in that void for what fans want to be a part of. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a second one. I'm just not sure if it's going to be called WrestleMania or it's going to be called something else. And as far as Nashville, I'd never seen anything like Vegas last year when WWE took over. That was insane, absolutely insane. With cities with tourist infrastructure are so much better able to handle an influx of a couple 100,000 or more people. And I think Nashville would be perfect for that. The people are going to love Nashville. I mean, it's music capital of the freaking world. It's a fun city. It's built for fun. And I think it'd be a great place to have WrestleMania.
We got to ask, allegedly they're aiming to make this the most star-studded WrestleMania ever with a ton of returning legends. Shawn Michaels has already answered the question and taken himself off the board saying, I'm about to get 2 new knees. I won't be one of them. But there's speculation. Hey, The Rock will be there and Stone Cold will be there. I guess the question is, you warming that shoulder up for 2027? What are we doing?
Let me tell you something. They call, I'm answering the phone. I haven't got no indication I'm doing anything, but that's going to be a fun show, and they're going to see a lot of legends there. That it's just going to be awesome. I think this show is going to be absolutely fantastic, and it does. To me, it does a lot. It's not just wrestling, but it kind of makes it's a good thing of not WWE is just America. It's it's WWE is a global event, but it takes something Western at least into Saudi Arabia. They're going to have a pretty good feeling about that. I think people that watch the Saudi Arabia, they're just biased against them, and if they are, they may have reason to be. I'm not throwing stones at these guys. Your opinions are your opinions. A lot of people are going to change their view of what's going on in Saudi Arabia because some people will not, and I understand that. I'm not trying to say that the world's going to be hunky dory. I know better than that, but it's going to be an awesome show, and I'd love to be a part if they ask me. I have no idea if they will or not.
It'll be interesting to see what legends come back. You know, we've heard Eric Bischoff say that he was in WWE at the time when they did the first Saudi show, and allegedly they were requesting guys like the Ultimate Warrior and Yokozuna, who unfortunately are no longer with us, but they clearly knew enough about wrestling to say, we want all the big stars. So it will be interesting to see who they break out the checkbook for. And hey, if you've got I know there's some people out there who were sort of anti this whole idea, but if checks are written big enough to see matches that you never thought you would see, I think fans will come around, John.
I think fans will come around, and I think people, people have their own opinions about what it is. I think people are going to see it and realize this is a heck of an event, and I think fans are really going to enjoy it. And I really believe that when you get about a day or two from it, all of this you sold out stuff is going to die, and the hype of the event is going to take over, and people are just going to sit there and want to watch it. And when they're watching it, you're not going to hear a word of it. And I think the show is going to be that good that this could be the greatest WrestleMania in history, because of what they're going to do, being the first one in Saudi Arabia.
Well, we'll stay tuned and see what happens there. You mentioned a minute ago that the American version of WrestleMania might be called something different. Maybe it's WrestlePalooza. You're probably saying that because Mark Shapiro recently did an interview where he said that WrestlePalooza, which is coming up this weekend, is going to be a very significant event for them moving forward. Do you think it'll be like the WrestleMania of 2027? Do you think that's the answer, WrestlePalooza?
It could be. They need something. And if they take that away from the fans, they're going to give them something. I'm convinced of it. I mean, these guys do business too well. They know how to these guys are some of the best business game people in the world. Look at what they've done. I mean, the money they're making right now, the TV contracts they have, the fact they're getting rights fees for events to come to cities, they're going to do something to make up for that. And so whether it's WrestlePalooza or something else, I think it's a great idea to have it. I think fans want to see this. Fans like going in and being part of what they love for a whole weekend. To them, it's their, what they look forward to all year long. And I think that's wonderful. And they want to come in on a Thursday and leave out on a Tuesday and see all the different shows and be part of everything. And I think WWE is going to find a way to make that happen.
Well, this will be the first time this Saudi WrestleMania in a long time that there haven't been a whole host of independent events sort of piggybacking WWE. That's become a common thing for the last 20 years or so. But I think that does bring about an opportunity on the other channel. If you're thinking like I'm thinking, while the big Saudi show is going on, there is an opportunity for another company, whoever it may be, to step up and have a really big event that same weekend here in America. Don't you think they could do their own counter programming? They
could, but it's got to be careful what you ask for. I mean, that's the dog that caught the car. I mean, what do you do with it, man? I mean, is that a fight you really want to pick? And I'm not sure there's a company out there that should pick that fight.
Well,
I understand what you're saying, and I understand, that's an opportunity. I just don't think there's a company that's big enough to pick that fight.
Well, the reality is we know it won't be TNA. I mean, I'm just saying, and it won't be AAA. But I guess you could do that, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, WWE could just run their own mega weekend here.
I wouldn't doubt that at all. I wouldn't put nothing by them. Conrad, I wouldn't put nothing by them. I mean, what they are doing is it's shocking to me how good a business it is. And people say, oh, you shouldn't do predatory business. That business is predatory. That's what you do. You're in business to make money. And they could do something like that. They could run competition against themselves.
Yeah, why not? I mean, listen, it's the same thing they did this past weekend. I mean, they ran a UFC and TKO boxing at the same doggone time. Like, Dana showed up just in time for the main event. He had to make sure the UFC was finished first. Like, that's what they're doing. And by the way, they paid, I don't know if you saw this, but TKO paid UNLV $1.75 million to leave Allegiant Stadium. They got paid $1.7 million to relocate. And they knew they could afford to do that because they were bringing in $47 million. But now that I'm thinking about it, and again, I don't have any inside information, but the rumor and innuendo is that Noah over in Japan is next for this WWE sort of treatment like AAA. So if you have a giant event happening in America with Noah, AAA, and TNA, and maybe NXT, oh my gosh, you want to talk about a mega wrestling weekend on different continents. That could be insane, John.
Yeah, and we're just armchair
We're freestyling. We don't know.
We're having fun talking about crazy stuff. That's awesome, Conrad, to have something like that. Everything but WWE. So that's pretty cool to have all those different groups. You know, if that association has come to fruition, like you mentioned that it could. Now, I have no inside information. I got to always keep saying that, but I think it'd be so cool to have that. And now you've got basically the independent world, even though they're really not independents. They're bigger than independents and they're more formal than independents. But the independent world outside of WWE in one mega event, that could be freaking awesome.
And let's be clear. I appreciate you said that because we do need to clarify because everybody knows whose podcast channel we're on here. We don't have any inside information.
That's right. We don't. I have no information.
We do know where Omos was for a while.
That's right.
So I'm just saying, I made a logical leap there.
The trail is not hard to find.
Yeah, we're just freestyling. And listen, maybe I'm freestyling that you need some high protein cereal. Magic Spoon can hook you up. We've been bragging about this product for a while now. If you haven't tried it already, what are you waiting for? By now, you know that Magic Spoon makes high protein, zero sugar cereal and treats. Reinvented from your childhood, dude, you can taste the nostalgia. Every serving of Magic Spoon high protein cereal has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs. They come in nostalgic flavors like fruity, cocoa, and frosted. If that sounds familiar, it's because that's what it tastes like, but without all the sugar, but with a ton of protein. And their high protein treats, man, that's my go-to for Magic Spoon. They're crispy, they're crunchy, they're airy, and they're an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. And they come in mouth-watering flavors like marshmallow, chocolate peanut butter, and dark chocolate. They're good on the go. They're great for pre or post-workout. And they're my go-to midnight snack. Get $5 off your next order right now at magicspoon.com/wrestle. Or look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/wrestle for $5 off. So, John, we mentioned WrestlePalooza a few moments ago, and they've got a big event coming up this weekend. This will be the first event for WWE and ESPN. They finished their run of PLEs with Peacock. Yes, you can still see some of the archives there, but when it comes to PLEs, you better be looking for ESPN. Now, if you live almost anywhere else, it's going to be on Netflix, just as all the other PLEs have been since January. And as of right now, and this could change in 25 minutes when Monday Night Raw live on Netflix starts, because they're starting an hour early, trying a new strategy to sort of get the jump on Monday Night Football. They never had that opportunity before because they were on broadcast television. But now
are we in a bubble? I mean, Connor, what the hell is going on? I used to think I was smart. Now I just don't think I know shit anymore. I mean, everything keeps getting better. You keep thinking, oh, they can't make any more money. They can't have bigger arenas. They can't have bigger shows. Every week, it looks like something else has happened. Then all of a sudden, Brock comes back and you go, oh, we got this great new storyline again. And I'm like, what? I don't get it. I mean, I love it. I think it's wonderful, but it's crazy to me, the time that we're in. And it's a fun time to be in.
It's going to be fun this weekend. Io Sky is going to be in there with Stephanie Vacour for the vacant women's world title. The Usos are going to have their maybe most high-profile 2-on-2 tag match since they reconciled against the Vision. They'll be against Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker in tag action. We've also got a big match. How about CM Punk and his wife, AJ Lee, returning to the Squared Circle in a mixed tag against Seth Rollins and the Man, Becky Lynch. And Cody Rhodes came back this past Friday night on SmackDown. He's going to be defending the world title against Drew McIntyre. And the match that a lot of people are looking forward to the most, John Cena and Brock Lesnar. This is going to be an incredible show. Only 5 matches announced so far. Maybe that'll change tonight. But John, as a fan, what are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, there's a couple things I really like. I just thought when I saw the mixed tag, it reminds me of Miss Elizabeth. Not that it was a mixed tag. There was a love connection there, and all that stuff. But it's just kind of cool to have a fun story. And I know these are all the women and the men and all this match. They're all great wrestlers. I get that. It's just fun to have a fun story like this, of two married couples fighting each other. I just think that's awesome. It's fun to me. And of course I love the Cena and Brock match. I think this thing's going to be fantastic. That's going to be, how about Brock ripping his pants and then showing everybody? He's awesome. How great is that?
I love that. Let's talk about Brock here for a minute. He hasn't wrestled in like 2 years. I think he just turned 48. I know he's got his critics out there. And a lot of people are going to wonder, oh, he's washed or he's overly ill or whatever. And I'm like, this guy's a genetic freak, and he has been since he debuted like 23 years ago. I'm not counting Brock Lesnar out in this. What do you expect Brock and John Cena to look like once the bell rings, John?
I think it's going to be fantastic. Like, I was there all this time when Brock was coming back, and he'd wrestle 3 or 4 or 5 times a year. It did no live events, and that's when you didn't have producers and agents that were able to produce the whole match. And so there's so much more feel, and now it's a little bit different because guys don't, producers and agents have become much more important now because you don't have these live events. But back when everybody was doing live events and Brock wasn't, he came in and still stole the show whenever time he came in. I've never seen anybody like Brock that can have as few matches as he had per year and turn in an incredible performance every single time. I have no doubt that he's going to have – he's an incredibly smart guy. So is Cena. I have no doubt they're going to have an incredible match.
None of my business. I don't know anything about wrestling at all. But I, for one, hope we don't see John Cena go to Suplex City like 42 times. That would not be good.
I do too. I do too. And I don't think we will. I think it's a pretty good storyline to come off of that match where he just got decimated, which I called that match. That was unbelievable to see that, because I didn't know what was going to happen until all of a sudden he just turned into a suplex dummy. I think you're going to see something probably more different, and I think it's going to be very entertaining.
I want to ask you, I'm not trying to listen. Let me knock on wood right now, but this is a risky proposition for John Cena. You talk about from now to the end of the year, it's all mapped out. He's got a handful of appearances left, and they're high profile as hell. And the entire world is now conditioned. I mean, even as soon as we started our live tonight, one of the first comments were, how many more appearances from John Cena? People are counting them down. They're tuned in. I hope he doesn't fuck around and get hurt this weekend. Because you want to talk about derailing everything. If he and Brock want to turn the knob all the way up and something goes awry, and it can when you got that much man slinging that much man around, you got to keep your fingers crossed on this one, just that everybody can walk out of there and we can continue this train of success we're on through the end of the year, don't you?
Yeah, because the body's not hardened for John. Fighters always talk about you got to get the body hard. When he first started training camp, it's just a process of getting hit a bunch of times, and your body just gets used to blows. You start a training camp, or you start training, you get hit, you get sore from it, you get your bell rung. The same blow a few weeks later, you don't even feel it. When you're wrestling every night, you don't feel a lot of stuff. Your body's, what fighters call hardened. I always thought that Taker probably wouldn't have had the problems with the concussions in the match that he had at Mania and I think he probably feels the same way, if he had been wrestling regularly. Your body just is not used to it until body can overcome a lot. So if anything happens, I think that could be the reason that somebody get hurt. Brock is one of the safest guys in wrestling. I mean, you see all these great throws you're doing. I'd let Brock do anything he wanted. Not that I could stop him anyway, to me, because he's so safe. He's so freaking strong. A guy like Mark Henry, a guy like Brock Lesnar, a guy like Kurt Angle, I mean, those guys, they're unbelievably safe because they're so freaking strong. So John's in really good hands.
Well, I do want to ask you, the match that stood out to you that you wanted to talk about first, I want to circle back around. We're talking about AJ Lee making her return. She's been gone. We talked about Brock maybe having ring rust. He's been gone for 2 years. She's been gone for 10. People are really excited to see her return. But I'm curious, have you ever done a mixed tag?
It's a great question, and I don't know. That's a great question. I'm sure I guess I'm yes. Worst match in the history of wrestling. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It was so bad Trish mentioned it in her Hall of Fame speech. Yeah. Me and Trish were part of the worst match, probably at least in Philadelphia history, maybe in wrestling history. Yeah, there was a mixed tag match. It was me and Trish or me and Jackie Gata. That was the competitors against Nowinski and Trish, whoever it was. That was the 4 people. And it was the worst match probably in the history of wrestling. It was so bad that Trish mentioned it in her Hall of Fame speech and looked at me and laughed, and we both almost cried still. It's so bad when I came back that Vince looked up at me and he goes, I'm sorry. It was that bad. I thought he was going to fire me. And he just like had pity on me, like, you poor lost little rescue pet. It was so bad. So yes, I have been in at least one, and one I don't want to remember.
Why was it the worst match ever, John?
You got it's all out there. I mean, you can see it. It was. I had left to do an appearance all day, and they just got started in the business. A bunch of the guys that I mentioned in the ring, they thought they had the match done figured out in their head. And all of a sudden, it just turned to shit, and nobody knew how to fix it. I didn't know where they're going because I had been gone on appearances all day, and all of a sudden, it just fell apart. I mean, absolutely fell apart. The Philadelphia crowd was laughing. It was horrible. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating here. It was the worst thing I've ever been a part of, and Trish will tell you the same thing.
It was Bradshaw and Trish against Chris Nowinski and Jackie Gata. And they went 3 minutes and 15 brutal seconds on Raw episode number 476. If you'd like to go look it up and let me know if I'm going to tonight.
Please don't tag me in social media. I know now everybody is going like, oh, hey, how boy, JBL, you were great back in the day. Yeah, I was fantastic. It was so bad that Vince literally looked up at me and just said, I'm sorry. He took his glasses off. He goes, I'm sorry.
Vince apologized to you.
He apologized to me because he knew that I was just about to go jump off a bridge.
It went down July 8th, 2002 at the First Union Center in Philadelphia.
Philly.
Yes.
Well, they will boo the homecoming queen.
They booed Santa Claus.
They booed Santa Claus. Can you imagine what they're doing to freaking me in the worst match in the history of wrestling? In Philly, of all places. I mean, this hardcore capital of the world, home of Joe Frazier with that left hook. I mean, this is the place we had the worst match in the history of wrestling in.
I mean, it was so bad Chris Nowinski got out of the business and decided he wanted to help people.
Yeah, he didn't have concussions. He just had PTSD from that fucking match we were in.
There you go. A quick little search over at Cage Match says you actually had, believe it or not, in 2000 and then in 2002, 6-man tags with Jackie and Trish tagging with the APA. It would be like Billy, Chuck, and Jazz against the APA and Trish Stratus. That happened in 2002. We got Jackie and APA against Test, Albert, and Trish. And then Lita, the APA, against Test, Albert, and Trish. So it did happen a few times, including No Mercy 2000, but they were 6-mans, not 2.
Yeah, and those were great. We were with Trish. Trish was with me and Ron for several matches. We loved having Trish with us. She was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It just happened that first match was not. And Jackie Moore, loved Jackie. She was fantastic. All everybody you mentioned was great. That one match though, that it just everything went wrong. Everything went wrong.
I don't know if you noticed, but the common denominator. You had 3 really good mixed tags and you had 1 bad one. And the major thing that changed is Ron Simmons wasn't there. And if he was here, he might say,
he might give me a damn. Damn. You were dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Ron, I was. Yes.
Oh God. I
Ron,
love it.
He look at that. That's the worst thing I've ever seen. Ever. Worst thing I've ever seen. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I do want to address this, John. I don't know that you've seen this, but I'll admit I had a WWE Hall of Famer text me this morning and ask, hey, where is WrestlePalooza? Is it on ESPN? I have YouTube TV. And I said, shrug emoji. I'm not sure. It is a little confusing. And I think, and I don't have this right, but people are saying it's on ESPN. It's on ESPN streaming. It's on the ESPN app. I think you have to sign up for the new ESPN Unlimited streaming service. And it's $30 a month in order to get this pay-per-view. Is that the way you understand it?
I don't understand it at all. I'm probably going to watch it. I got the ESPN service because I love the ESPN Plus because I watch a lot of extra games. My old college is on ESPN Plus a lot, Abilene Christian. But so I've got the streaming. I don't know if that is included for what I need or not.
See, that I think is the real challenge this weekend. And I hope they clarify it on Monday Night Raw because I think a lot of people, myself included, may have just stumbled on ESPN thinking it was going to be there, but I don't think it is. And I think they changed the name from ESPN Plus to ESPN Select, and I don't even think that's it. I think it's ESPN Unlimited. I could be wrong, but this is, I guess, what I'm getting to is Jeff Jarrett says sometimes if you confuse them, you lose them. And I hope they don't leave money on the table. Now, I know they're probably getting a giant check from ESPN. Nick Khan knows how to negotiate. So that's an ESPN problem, not a WWE problem. But I hope there's not a lot of disappointed fans who can't find it this weekend.
Yeah, and sometimes you got to oversimple things. When we had the $9.99,
Yes.
over the top, we just $9.99. I'd hold up stupid signs and say it over and over and over, just bashing it into people. It's a little bit different because people were getting used to getting something over the top. Then I think people are much more accustomed to it now. But if there is that confusion, that's very simple. Spend 2 or 3 segments during the show with integration with the talent of telling how to get to this app or whatever you got to buy. Because you don't want any confusion. Now, I think most people, especially younger people that want to be there, are going to get there. I don't have much doubt for that. Some of the older people like me could have problems and have to call a younger person to get them on the app. But I'm interested as well because I don't know because I keep seeing this stuff for ESPN Select and Unlimited, and I'm going to buy it, but I don't know if I have it right now or not.
I don't know either, but I know I will by this weekend. I'm not missing WrestlePalooza. I don't want you to either. So make sure you've got it. Go check and see if you've got ESPN Unlimited. And if you don't, grab it. You don't want to miss out this weekend. I'm going to watch. John's going to watch. You should too. It's going to be a big day for pro wrestling. There's another show happening that afternoon, John. I don't know if you heard about that, but it's also football Saturday. So there's more sports than you can shake a stick at this weekend. And I'm looking forward to it. We've got 2 big topics I want to hit before we wrap things up. I do want to talk about Andrade and the hypothetical of a new performance center. But before we do, we are live and we've got a lot of great questions coming in. I want to hit some of those. And I saw a great suggestion here from the Blue Meanie who's with us here live. Shout out to Meanie.
Shout out to Meanie and Philadelphia. Talk about your hardcore fans and your hardcore guy. I owe Blue Meanie a text, by the way. He sent me a wonderful thing on UFOs the other day. And to me and Mr. Briscoe, I haven't answered him yet, but I will. I've been trying.
Meanie suggests, hey, WrestleMania night 1, Saudi, WrestleMania night 2, US. Now that's not suggesting that they would move sets, but you would just have a set up here in the United States and have a set up in Saudi. I could see that if WrestleMania was a 2-night event. Do you think that's what they'll do?
I could see that very easily. Yeah. Obviously Vince tried that with WrestleMania 2, but a different format with the different cities. But yeah, I think that could work. And in the United States, that gives the fans that want to be there for a whole weekend an opportunity. And you can dress it up with so many different things. I mean, you can really be creative. You take half the roster and take them to Saudi. You probably would bring some back, even though it'd be a pretty long flight, but you probably would bring some of them back. But it could be a pretty cool event. I think they're going to figure out a way to make this work. I know they will.
Acel Raider says, is JBL partially based on Jerry Jones? That's interesting. Did you take any inspiration from the Cowboys owner, Jerry Jones?
As far as what?
The JBL character and presentation.
No. Great question. Wonderful question. No, J.R. Ewing, but not Jerry Jones. Absolutely not. No. And Jerry Jones came along later, but yeah, that's I think it'd be a terrific character to base a wrestler off of, Jerry Jones. I think that's a great idea. And I literally have not thought of that before, but I think it's a great idea. To me, it's more based off J.R. Ewing.
AOTV Productions, who always has good questions. He says, I met Killer Cross and asked his thoughts on Sami Zayn. He thinks he should be pushed to the world title and that Solo needs a U.S. title run. What do you think, John? Could you see Sami as the top guy?
Yeah, absolutely. He's been right at the edge this whole time, and whatever reason he has not gotten it. And so I think he'd be, yes, 100%. I think Sami to me is one of the most talented guys I've ever been around. And he's a smart guy. He knows how to perform. He knows how to do anything. And he's been terrific at so many different things that anything you put him in, which is for a world title, you have to have a lot of different shades. And I think he'd be good at it.
Guy W. Johns says, honest question and concern with the near constant chanting and bleeps with the F-bombs. Some people seem to find the live crowds distracting to a TV audience. I just don't know how to fix that divide. Is there a solution, John, that you know of?
I don't know. I don't know. You can handle signs, take them away. But if whole crowd wants to chant something, there's not a lot you can do. And I don't know what you would do for the microphones. I don't know. Fans traditionally, we love it, whether they like what we're doing or whether they don't. If they're a part of it, or even when they're hijacking the show, they're doing something that they enjoy. And so you got a real catch-22 here. Now, if they're chanting something obscene, it's a real issue. It's almost you almost prey on them to be self-policing, which most times they end up doing that because they understand that they're harming the very show that they love.
Greg Jacobson says, did JBL find his trunks and boots the other day?
No, no, I didn't. I don't know where they are. I've said on ad-free shows that I'd look for my trunks and boots, and somebody said, "Oh, why are you doing that?" Which is a very good question, and I did answer it, but I don't know. I did not find them. It's not there. I've got them somewhere. I've not thrown them away. They're not like put up anywhere that I'm saving them. Special to sell them. I just got them in a storage room somewhere, and I don't know where. My dad has a couple storage rooms, and I didn't have the time to go through them.
Maddie, who's with us here live, says, do you think WrestleMania in Saudi may cause some trouble, as in the talent that Saudi wants just don't want to be on that show? You think people are going to turn their nose up at that paycheck, John? I don't see it.
Don't see it. Don't see it at all.
No,
Jim it may, but I don't see it.
Jim says, do you think WWE will go and perform in North Korea like WCW did back in the 1990s?
No, and I never. What was the reason that Eric went? I never heard.
It was the World Peace Festival. I think it was something that Inoki was putting together, and
Gotcha.
And they were promised, it was a paid house. I mean, I don't even think there were tickets sold. I think the citizens were told, you're going to
go and have fun.
Yes. AOTV Production says, one upside to WrestleMania in Saudi, people in the States don't have to stay up late. Well, there's another positive, I guess. 2x6 Derek says, I miss Bruce singing that old JEFF theme. Well, maybe you'll hear it in October. Maybe we'll see.
Maybe it'll be on Cody's podcast, but you'll probably hear it.
Yeah, eventually. 2x6 Derek says APA for life, and I'll outdrink the APA and Flair twice on Sunday. Hey man, let me just suggest a meeting. I mean, if that's really what you're doing, a little meeting every now and again wouldn't hurt you.
We had a couple of times, we had some young guys, I remember one time we were in Denver, and I don't want to say who it is because I think he's still out there somewhere in some podcast or something. And if he wants to tell a story, he can. It's not a malicious story. But I said, hey, you want to come join us? And he goes, oh, no. He goes, besides, I just got out of college. And I said, and what does that mean? And he said, well, I'm like in great drinking shape. I said, okay. I said, I'd like you to come over here, please. And I said, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I don't do. I'm just going to ask you to keep up. And the next day, I went golfing the next morning, and they found out that he had fallen asleep outside of his hotel room in the hall and missed the production meeting.
Well, somebody else who's missed a meeting or two allegedly is in the headlines. Andrade El Idolo has parted ways with WWE. Quietly, he was removed from the main roster and put in the alumni section. Fans noticed on Saturday, and I guess there's been reports that he had a wellness failure. He had supposedly ghosted WWE for weeks. Allegedly, he was going to be in a tag match with Rey Fenix and perhaps win the tag titles at Clash in Paris, but well, that didn't happen. And we know this was his second stint in WWE. He had a little hiccup in the other company, a cup of coffee. And I know that he didn't end things well with AAA. So I'm curious what's next for Andrade. I think everybody listening to this knows that he's one of the best performers in the ring. He's a good looking guy. He looks like a star. He's in great shape. And once the bell rings, he's unbelievable. But what's next for him is still, well, to be determined. I think it's an easy answer to think, well, we'll see him in CMLL and he'll be a top guy there. But I don't know, based on what we just talked about earlier in the show from Conan, that is going to financially scratch the itch that he's come accustomed to here in the United States. What do you think is next for Andrade? And I know he's not listening to the podcast today, but what advice would you give him now that he finds himself a man without a country? I mean, he's going to bounce back. He's going to make a living in wrestling. He's too good not to, but where is the question?
Yeah. And the The thing is, I don't know anything about any of these issues that he's had, the veracity, the truthfulness of what they are and what they are not, just what's being reported. And I certainly don't want to comment on issues that allegedly he has.
Right.
I can comment on stuff, from my own personal life. I'm glad social media wasn't around when I was younger because, oh my God, I'd have to overcome so much because I was pretty stupid and pig-headed at times. And when you do something like that, I'm not talking about Andrade, I'm just talking about life in general and wrestling in general. You just got to figure out a way to find somebody and go make it work somewhere. And if you do, you'll be welcome back everywhere. I mean, nearly everybody gets second, third, and fourth chances. You just got to figure out where that second, third, and fourth chance comes. And it's a matter of getting that next chance, whatever that is. Whatever it is next, you've got to be able to do it, hit it out of the park, which he's certainly capable of doing, not have any issues that go with it, and you'll be welcome back places. People forgive. People forget, but it's a matter of you've got to actually have some idea of what you want to do and a plan.
I'm excited for what's next for Andrade because I know that when the bell rings, he's incredible. And we've seen guys who've gone down this path before where they have some behind the scenes or off the field situations and we don't see them on WWE programming for a while. And then they go reinvent themselves. And a guy that you think a lot of that you called earlier this year, the best wrestler in the world comes to mind, Alberto Del Rio. You saw Conan even mention earlier today in our conversation about Mexico. He said, Alberto knew this was his last chance and he's come through in a major way. I talked to somebody, a friend of ours who's an active wrestler for WWE and not who you think when I'm saying it, but they said, hey, Andrade is a survivor. He's going to make a living in wrestling and he's going to have great matches and he'll be fine. And I believe that to be true. But if he has the trajectory outside the tent that Alberto Del Rio did, man, that could be one of the great success stories of 2026. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. And people love those stories. People love stories of people overcoming stuff, whatever that may be, whether it's personal or professional or whatever that may be, or physical. People love that story. And there aren't that many guys that can have great matches. And I don't mean in today's wrestling. I mean, in any generation. People always say, oh man, we need 20 Shawn Michaels. We didn't have 20 Shawn Michaels. We had one. We had one Eddie Guerrero. I mean, these guys that come along that can perform, they're rare. And Andrade is a guy that can perform. I'm not putting him in a level with Eddie and Shawn. He may be one day, but that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that it's rare to be able to perform like that. And if he finds a place to do that, people are going to find him, and they're going to find him, and they're going to do something with him. Nearly everybody gets. I mean, second chances are pretty common, and that's a good thing because most of us need them.
Well said. And most of us need a chance to save some money. That's what I help you do at savewithconrad.com. Just last month, I celebrated my 24-year anniversary doing this. And of course, I love talking about pro wrestling, but I actually started doing this to support my other passion, which is helping people save money. We want to help you reach your short-term and your long-term goals. Are you in an apartment right now? Did you know that you could own a house for less than you're paying in your current rent? You may not even need a down payment. But it is a critical part for most Americans to develop whatever sort of wealth they'll have in their life. It's in their house. And the real American dream is not to have a monthly payment. The real American dream is to own some land with a property on it and a house on it that you can make memories. And you flip through those old photo albums and you think, hey, that was at grandma's house. And hey, that was at mom and dad's house. I want that for you and your family. And that's what me and my family do at savewithconrad.com. And if you already own a house, hey man, it's up to you to figure out how to pay it back and get it debt free as good as possible. My grandfather taught me as a young man, hey son, the only good snake's a dead snake. Well, I've got friends who have some pet snakes, but nobody has a pet mortgage. The only good mortgage is no mortgage. Even the word mortgage is Latin for pledge until death. It was designed by bankers who wanted to keep you giving them 29% of your gross monthly income every month until you die. I want you to pay your mortgage off and have that peace of mind. I want you to retire that debt, pay your house off before your kids are driving or before they go to college so they don't get saddled with student loans. I want to help you retire on time. If you desire a vacation home, I want to help you do that. I want to help you turn your current house into your dream home with no money out of pocket, We can help you leverage the equity you have in your house right now to make those renovations to your kitchens, to your bathroom. Maybe you want a man cave. Maybe it's time to add a shop behind the house or a pool. You can do all of that at savewithconrad.com. My strategies are, let's get out of debt as quick as possible with the greatest tax deduction, with the best possible interest rate and the cheapest monthly payments. And by the way, if you're struggling to make credit card payments right now, man, I can help. It's not a matter of if I can save you money. It truly is a matter of how much, and it's free to find out right now. It's no cost, no obligation. And if we can't save you some cash, we won't waste your time. Give us a call right now, toll free at 888-425-0105. Drop me an email directly at conrad@savewithconrad.com. Or of course, get a quick quote, even talk to a live person right now at savewithconrad.com. But to be clear, we're not a bank. We're not going to tell you no. We'll say not yet, but here's how. You need a plan. And that's what we want to do. We want to be your mortgage advisor for life. We want to help you start with the end in mind. So if you're on the fence about whether or not this makes sense, I want you to ask yourself one question. How old are you going to be when you pay your house off? If you don't know the answer, we need to start thinking about that. Isn't it weird that in our everyday life, we hear people say, oh, I've only got 6 more car payments and then I own this thing free and clear. Why don't we talk about our houses that way? Let's get out of debt together. That's what I want to help you do. And it all starts with a plan, and it's no cost, no obligation. Let my team run the numbers for you right now and find out how much money you can save. We routinely help listeners of this podcast save 5, 6, 7, even $800 a month. Find out how much we can save your family right now at savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Did I mention no house payments for 2 months? That's right. No house payments in October or November. You're done until December 1st. Start saving money today at savewithconrad.com. John, our last topic today, and I can't believe this is real. Triple H hinted that they might be building, I guess they are building another performance center. Man, it feels like just yesterday they debuted the performance center, but in reality, it was like 11 or 12 years ago. But now they're doing it again. And I guess it's going to be bigger. I don't really know what to expect, but what do you think is next for this new performance center? I mean, take a look at that photo there. Just all the rings. This is the power plant on steroids, and they're doing another one, a bigger one. What do you know, if anything, about the new performance center that's coming to Orlando?
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I've been to the old one. Good enough to tell how many times. A lot of TV shows are filmed there. It's harder to film TV shows there because you don't have just a ton of rooms that are available for TV rooms. So I would imagine that's going to be a big part of it. Again, as we always say, because whose podcast this is, I don't have any inside information. I would imagine that's going to be a big part of it. One of the big things about the podcast, the performance center to me is not just the fact that you're training wrestlers, but you're training everything else. You're training referees. Obviously, you're going to train that with the wrestlers, but you're training cameramen too. You're training production people. You're training lighting people. Everything. You're training people that need to have a specific skill. One of the big things I thought during the Attitude Era and the wars with Monday night was our production was off the charts. These guys had been with Vince for years. That's what they did. They did other things as well. They moonlighted as, cameramen for NFL, for NBA, but they were wrestling people first. And that's what you're getting with the Performance Center, not just wrestlers, but also with the wrestlers, you're teaching them how to be able to handle television. You don't learn that on independents and, places that don't have the scale that WWE does. Back in the day, guys would come into WWE and just be overwhelmed by the product. You see all these TV trucks out there. You see all this production stuff, these trellises and all these lights and all these professional people. It would just overwhelm me. You don't have that now. It's an easier integration because of this Performance Center. It really has changed the business. But I think what you're going to see is not just more wrestling, but more production coming out of it, because that to me is the key, that you're training people to step into every role you need to make a television product better.
It will be interesting to see what happens. I mean, obviously they're going to want a bigger venue, but I would think they would start, like you said, with TV in mind. So maybe they'll have more bleachers or more stands, more stadium type seating, and they could do all kinds of fun state of the art with this. But they could also have, like you said, larger training areas. But I guess the question is, do you think they'll keep the other performance center? Do you think they'll run two parallel, like one is finishing school and one is for live events? Or I don't know, but do you expect they would manage 2 properties, or do you think they'd try to keep it all under one roof just for efficiency standpoint?
I wouldn't. I'd have it under one roof. And if you have a separate facility, like you have a separate progression, like you go to one training center first, and your period of learning is different. You go to a different training center. I'd put that in a different city. That way you have it in Vegas or wherever else. That's just my opinion. And again, like we always say, don't have inside information about this, but that's what I would do to make it better. But when you talk about the TV, you can make it so much more interactive when you're building it for TV from scratch. The studio show, which Jim Barnett's the one that came up with, that still works. And you see it with UFC, you see it with WWE, you see it with nearly any live event, wrestling, or that's contained. Like a small, like a boxing ring, UFC cage or octagon or wrestling ring. And I think you're going to see a lot more things with the TV product, maybe different screens, more interactions, a different way to set up your TV where you can set it up for a variety of different things. Perhaps you want to set up a UFC fight night in there or anything. I think you're going to be able to do it.
Hey, I do want to ask you, when we take a look at, the current performance center, most of us have never been there. You have been there. Is there an immediate need that you could say, I could see how they need more of that? I know you said TV room, but I mean specifically, do you think they have enough rings? I mean, I heard once upon a time that there was a thought in some of the early developmental territories, they wanted 3 rings. So you could have beginners, intermediate, and then sort of advanced, like they're getting ready to go. But you needed like different levels just so their core competency, they could train with their peers, because you didn't want a guy who's about to be on TV to get accidentally injured by a guy on his first day in. That makes total sense to me. Do you think they need more rings, or is it more conditioning machines, like a larger gym? I'm talking Smith machines and things like that. Or is it something totally different? Is it just about the performance piece? I'm talking about like with fans and television and all that, or do they need some of these other things as well?
I think it's a little of all the above. I think the performance piece, as far as the TV, can be changed a lot. I think that, and they probably will. Technology's come along that can make things, in just the 10 years from when they had it before, they started building it to now, that they can make it so much better. I think they're going to make incredible upgrades with the studio where they film the shows. As far as the rings, I don't know. When they built it, I don't think they ever had any desire, thought they would use what they had. The gym's not that big, but it's functional. To me, I'm not as much a functional trainer as I'm more just kind of an old style lifter with the multi-joint movements, the compound movements. They're doing a lot of functional stuff. And so the gym is, it's not huge, but probably could be double, which I figure they probably will. To me, the main thing is to add TV rooms so you can do more shows there.
It will be interesting to see how that continues to evolve. I mean, it immediately makes me wonder, will there be a Hall of Fame attached to this, do you think, if you had to guess? I don't know. We have no inside information. We don't know.
That's right. I'll tell you, the training room there is just unbelievable. The whole facility is unbelievable. They've done an incredible job with the performance center, but the training room there is just state of the art. Which I'm sure will be replicated wherever else it goes. I hope they do I don't know if they'll do it there. I feel like they'll probably put a Hall of Fame somewhere in a tourist area, like a downtown Orlando or near Universal Studios, something like that, or Vegas. I don't feel like they'll make it as part of the performance center, because I don't know if you want fans hanging around to see who's at, because a lot of times your guys are going to the performance center and they're hiding. They're training for a big match, and you don't really want people to know that. So you don't want to have guys coming in a back door to come in and sneak in and have a bunch of fans going into the Hall of Fame and see that. I think it's easier to have it separate, is my opinion.
Hear me out. It is in Orlando, and we know that there's a lot of theme parks in Orlando. And hypothetically, if they did build a big business or a big building and they did have an arena and it was TV friendly or whatever, maybe it could be an attraction to allow green guys to learn how to get reps. And maybe that could be part of the experience of some sort of WWE Hall of Fame. You can see potentially future Hall of Famers have one of their very first matches, that sort of thing. Because it does feel like one of the things that we hear a lot is the talent of this generation, they need an opportunity to get more reps, which is why I think it's in Orlando. Maybe there's a way to have one hand wash the other. I don't know. If I'm honest with you, I was kind of surprised it was in Orlando. Given the UFC's Performance Institute and their presence in Las Vegas, we know Nevada and Orlando, neither one have state tax. Both are very business friendly. I kind of expected that if they were going to build a second one, it might be in Las Vegas, but because it's in Orlando, I wonder, will there be a Hall of Fame involved with this?
They've got, that's a great idea. And they've got the TV studio mindset, from what Eric did with WCW right there. So it could be something great. You just make it part of the show. You make it part of Universal Studios. You make it part of Disney. You make it part of something else. And you're able to see these guys train or see wrestlers, see some, wrestling matches where they get out in front of people where they can learn off of TV. They learn in people going to Disney. I think that could be a very unique idea.
Well, something else unique is Gerard Green. He was with us here live, and he threw just one word out here that I thought, you know what, that might be a shirt. We might actually have that shirt for sale next week here. I can't believe this is a real word. Bratisfaction. What do you think about that? Not Trish Stratus's Stratisfaction, Bratisfaction. I could see you rocking a Bratisfaction shirt through the airport somewhere.
I think I could. One thing that's great, I used to get a lot of commentary suggestions off of Twitter. A lot of times people were just bashing me, but sometimes they'd put funny stuff out there, and I'd always try to let them know that I was stealing their stuff, and it's one thing that's great, like the Blimp'n Ain't easy, is the feedback we get from fans on here. Because the fans really are creative, and they sit around, they think about wrestling, stuff comes up in their mind. It really is a force multiplier to have that.
We should mention we recently got an update on Jerry the King Lawler. I don't know if you saw that, but there was a positive report from Jerry Lawler this afternoon. I guess he did an interview in Memphis, and he's been touched by all of the positive thoughts. He says, I remember lying in bed in the hospital, and when people that I knew, like family members, came in, I didn't even recognize them. People kept coming out of nowhere to thank me and pray for me, and all of that means a great deal to me, and I want to thank them for all that. He's not been taking his medication in the days before the stroke 2 weeks ago, and that added to the trouble he had with his vision, not even recognizing his own house when he got home, but otherwise he felt pretty good. We're all pulling for Jerry the King Lawler. We've learned that he's suffered a stroke, and I know you think a lot of him, and I do too, and we want to keep him in our thoughts and prayers as we had to plop down in front of our TVs and watch a big Monday Night Raw, because once upon a time, he was one of the voices that welcomed us to that show.
He sure was. And the run that he had in Memphis, to be able to sell out an arena like the size of Memphis, 52 weeks in a year, there aren't many people in the history of business that could do what King's done. He's one of the greats of all time, and he's also one of the great commentators of all time. So he's unbelievable run the King has had, and it hasn't stopped, and I'm very grateful.
We're grateful that you guys joined us for a live. We hope that you'll be checking out WrestlePalooza this weekend. We want to hear your thoughts below about some of the topics we've talked about. We want to hear what you think about Andrade. Let us know in the comments below. We want to know where you're thinking that WrestleMania may be headed in 2027. Will we get a Nashville WrestleMania? Will it be night 1 here and night 2 in Saudi? We'll see. But we've also been soliciting your suggestions. We're looking for some topics for JBL. Allegedly, we might be rounding the bases. I don't know. Maybe somebody's coming back. Who knows? We'll see. But as we wind things down on Something to Wrestle with John Layfield, what are the topics you want to hear from John? We want to hear your suggestions below, but we also want to hear them on Twitter. If you haven't already, go follow us on Twitter. It's @Pritchard Show. That's where you can find us on Twitter. And we're soliciting your topics. We're going to be putting up a poll there, and we're going to throw you guys the keys to the show. What do you want us to talk about? We want to hear from you. Go find us right now on Twitter @Pritchard Show. And look for a poll in the coming days, and we want to hear from you. But give us those suggestions right now on Twitter, and stay tuned next week. John, it's been a crazy week for America, and I know you've always got a way to sort of bring us together. I'll give you the floor to close the show. I know sometimes we just like to be the distraction for everybody, but man, there's a lot of people who are kind of wondering what's up and what's down, and I think we should just try to be good to one another and try to be a little better. What say you?
Yeah, a few years ago, I was at a signing, and a guy came up and told me that he was having real issues when I saw him in Tikrit, Iraq, and his buddies had been killed that day. And I sat down with him, and he never told me this. He never told me anything's wrong with him. And he said, you changed my life just by sitting down and laughing and joking with me. And it really changed what I thought about the world. He said it was just a time where I needed somebody. And I don't say that to say that I did anything good. I did not. I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. But you never know where a kind word goes. But you do know where an unspoken word goes. It goes nowhere. And, right now in this world, you got so many people that are, wanting to just inflame things. God almighty, don't be that guy. Be the guy or girl that walks into a room and makes that room better. Have something decent to say to people and leave some legacy other than, just the art of division. It's fun sometimes being mad and griping and ranting and all the stuff that we do. But there really isn't an end game to that ends well. The end game that ends well is find something to be meaningful to the rooms that you were in and the people that you influence.
We appreciate everybody tuning in today, and we'll see you next week right here on Something to Wrestle with John Layfield.